Give me just a sec to make announcements.
All right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. This isn't Kid Icarus. Yo, real talk though, I do want a sequel to Uprising. Sakurai, I know you're tired from Smash, but please. I do wonder what Sakurai is gonna do next now that he's free from the Smash shackles.
Leap.
He's gonna like move to the countryside and live his life there.
I don't believe that. I think
He'll be
Sakurai.
He'll be like
is the
Rambo.
kind
He's done with his mission.
I feel like Sakurai is the kind of man who will work until his time. He just comes off to me as the type where he says, "Oh, I hate working so much. I'm so tired," but he still does it. Just out of the sense of duty.
Announcements are posted. We are live, fellas. Welcome to our Metroid Dread discussion stream.
Whoop whoop.
Hello, hello.
Checked audio levels. They seemed pretty good. I already see we have someone in the chat. Welcome. Should probably get my stream pulled up just to make sure that I am indeed live. Yes, I am. All right. But yeah, so tonight it's going to be very, very interesting stream. I don't even know. I mean, this is just going to be experimental. But me, Titus, and Wildberk, we are here to discuss Metroid Dread. Kind of not necessarily a review, more of just like a general roundtable discussion. Kind of how I've seen it as. Like, if either of you guys watch Red Letter Media, kind of like what they do.
I love Red Letter Media.
Yeah, they're specifically kind of their review series. Like, they don't take it. They're not necessarily. No, it's just called review. So like they're not necessarily taking it seriously. It's not a review, which is a joke in and of itself. Like the name, they're not even reviewing movies. They're just kind of talking about it. It's like we have stuff to say. And yeah, don't know where to start. We might as well, like, if you guys want to introduce yourselves, drop your Twitch links, your social medias, go right ahead.
Titus, you're welcome to go first.
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Titus Suarez. As you can see, I am indeed a dinosaur, so don't freak out too much. But no, I stream over on Twitch. I'm supposed to do it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I've had some technical issues lately. So, but yeah, I usually stream around then. Around I can't think of words right now. Around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time those days. So come check me out if you'd like. Just over on twitch.tv/Titus the Dinosaur. And I'm also on Twitter. And my YouTube and Twitter links are also linked there on Twitch. So feel free to come hang out. I play a lot of games. I play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Too. So yeah.
That was fantastic, Titus.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Wildberk. I am a Mudman monster. You can find me at Twitch, wild_Berk. I haven't been streaming recently just because I've had some various issues in the swamp that I've had to take care of. But I will be streaming soon, and hopefully with these wonderful gentlemen and dinosaurs alike. And I'm really excited to be here today.
All right, nice. I can already see we have a bunch of viewers in here. There's more traffic than I usually get. Yeah, we might as well just start off because this stream, I don't know how long it's gonna last for. I've thrown out it might be like a couple hours, might be longer, might be shorter, who even knows. I've never done a stream like this before. But yeah, we're talking about Dread. We've all played it, some of us more than others. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
We're all here to kind of give our thoughts on it. And I think the very first thing we need to talk about first, and it's important so we kind of understand where we're coming from. And this would be our experience in history with the Metroid franchise. So I wrote down like a little list kind of to keep us on track, like various topics and stuff, aspects of the game that we can talk about, just to make sure that if we go off on a tangent, we'll be able to get right back on. And so we're starting off, and since I'm the host of tonight's stream, you two are my guests, I'll let one of you lead. But what is your history with Metroid? Like, what are the games you've played? What do you think of Metroid as a franchise? What do you even think of Metroidvania as a genre? As well as, what were your thoughts on the lead up to Dread?
Mm-hmm.
I'll let one of you lead.
I'll be happy to step forward.
Yeah,
I've been playing Metroid since, as far as I can remember. I got a Super Nintendo at a garage sale for $20 at the time, so I was like, "Oh, dude, this is gonna be fantastic." And one of the games I got to play was Super Metroid. A friend brought it over, but I only got to play it for like 6 hours. Which, if you've never played a Metroid game before, then you know that's not enough time to learn a game. So my first real Metroid game, I would say, would be Fusion, and then Metroid Prime, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And
Gotcha.
I've loved this series clearly since like the year 2000. 2002 more specifically, though, because that's when Fusion came out. And this has been a franchise that's been near and dear to me my whole life. I do know there have been some, how do you say, outliers in the series. I'm looking at
You'd
you,
say
Adam. The baby. But
Oh God, don't start.
Okay.
Don't
The
even
baby.
start. The baby.
but
Babies
yeah.
cry.
And I've played a lot of other Metroidvania games. I've played, Symphony of the Night, Castlevania. I've played the two like progenitors of all this genre. So yeah, that's kind of my overall background. Let's just say I'm very steeped in the universe.
Mm.
Titus?
Right. So, my experience with Metroid. Well, when I was in high school, which is about, oh God, it's almost a decade ago now. When I was in high school, I had a 3DS, and I was looking one night through the eShop, and I saw that for Game Boy, they had Metroid Samus Returns, and I thought, well, I've never played Metroid. I know it's supposed to be like this great game series, but I never played Metroid. But I don't want to start with something that it's just a me thing. When I play a franchise, I usually choose to when I make the decision I want to play this franchise, I will play it from the beginning no matter what. So I sought out, and lo and behold, the original Metroid was also on the eShop, so I bought it on my 3DS. And I abused the heck out of save states and did not know what the heck I was doing. But I eventually made it through, and I thought, is that it? Is that's what everyone's excited about? Like, I don't know. And I don't, my ignorant, rear end thinking I'm so much this game isn't all that when, I was playing. Well, I'm pretty sure most even Metroid fans are like, it's an old game. Like Zero Mission is the superior version.
Yes.
But yeah. And then I played Samus Returns after that. And then a few years passed, and up to, I believe it was last year. So a few years ago, after I graduated college, I got into retro game collecting, and I got a Game Boy SP, and
Nice.
and one of
What
the
color,
first games.
if I may ask?
Oh,
This
it's
is an important question.
it's the blue one. It's the blue one.
Ah, I had the silver.
Nice.
Silver Gang.
Yeah, yep. In the platinum, yeah.
But they had one of the first games that I got, because they also had it at that same retro game store I frequent. Is they had Metroid Fusion,
Oh,
and
so lucky.
so I picked up Metroid Fusion. It was for pretty good cost. I only paid like 30 something bucks for it, I think, which
It's
usually
like going for 80 these days.
Yeah.
any game that's any good now that's retro, like you got to pay like out the wazoo for it now. It's ridiculous. But anyway, but yeah, I played Metroid Fusion. I thought, what? And Game Boy Advanced era was my bread and butter. Is like the I can't speak. The pixelation, the sprites, the artwork for like Game Boy Advanced era games. I love that stuff so much. And the art, the pixel art for Metroid Fusion was fantastic. I loved it so much. And it was, I know Fusion is like kind of the black sheep in a lot of ways, other of the like main 5 anyway.
You're shaking your head, Wildberk.
No, I will die on that hill.
I'd
feel like,
agree with you on that, Titus. It is a black sheep. I do love the art style, and we're gonna talk
Yeah.
way more about that later.
yeah.
Trust me.
But yeah, I really liked it. And then weirdly enough, the one everyone actually, raves about, like it's like the second coming, Super Metroid, never played it. And then this year, I was like, I played the 3 other Metroid games that are coming out that have come out already, from the 2D era. So maybe I should, actually play Super Metroid. And I just loaded it up on Nintendo Switch Online, and yeah, it was good. I beat it in like a day or two. It was pretty good. I still like Fusion more. I'm gonna be honest. I like Fusion more. But yeah, I knew about Dread for a while. Like, I think if you're like me and you spend your days constantly playing YouTube videos in the background of doing anything else,
Yes.
you intake a lot of useless information that you know but you don't actually remember. And what I'm sure I watched the all those Did You Know Gaming, or like
Oh God, yeah.
or the what's his name, gaming historian videos, like just a ton of like old retro video game videos about the Metroid franchise, despite not being too invested in it up until like last year when I played Fusion. And the existence of Dread. I knew of it to the point where it was announced, when it finally got announced in that Nintendo Direct. I believe it was last year or early this year. I remember.
I want to say it was this year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Late. Yeah.
It felt like it came out of nowhere for me.
Yes, it did.
I remember being surprised, because I was like, "This isn't Metroid Prime 4." I mean, cool.
I was that. That was me. Yeah.
But I was like, wow, that's I was like, wow, a new 2D Metroid. That's crazy. People are gonna freak out about this. I was, as the kids say, pogging. That was pretty great. And then I saw the title Dread, and I'm like, oh shit, that's the name of that canceled Metroid game, isn't it? That's crazy. Anyway, let's go on Twitter and see people upset about Smash. But, but yeah, I was pretty excited, because at that point, after I played Fusion, I got pretty invested in Metroid. So I haven't played any of the 3D ones yet. I'm going to, once ever I can find a physical copy of the collection. So for the Prime series. But yeah, I've played all the 2D ones now, and Dread was just absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure I'm a newer fan of Metroid, but for someone who's like a long-term Metroid fan, I can only imagine how good it must feel to finally get a new edition and have it be good. So
Or just have a new Metroid game. Period. I mean,
right.
And we'll talk more about that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because on my streams, I've talked extensively about how Metroid is not as big of a brand name as a lot of people realize, and I'll talk more about that later.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess other than that, as far as Metroidvanias go, I mean, I've played Metroidvanias. I actually recently streamed through Hollow Knight on my channel, my YouTube channel, if you want to check that out.
Congrats.
But yeah, it was a good game. Thank you.
I saw that we all rated you on one stream.
Oh yeah, that was great. You guys rated right as I finished it, I think. But yeah, Metroidvania is like an iconic, genre of games now. Even if ironically, Metroid only recently has started to make a comeback, and Castlevania basically as dead as the antagonist of the franchise. Its legacy lives on, and it's a good formula. So I think it's a good time to be a Metroidvania fan, for sure.
Especially with like indie projects going on. I mean, that's where the Metroidvania exists these days.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. You got Blasphemous, Hollow Knight. There's a lot, and those are the 2 I've only recently played.
I'm playing through Blasphemous right now. Do you know what else is a shockingly decent Metroidvania? The Mummy game.
Oh, I heard about that.
The Mummy Demastered, which was literally a tie-in game for The Mummy the film with Tom Cruise.
Oh.
Wait, I'm sorry.
The Monsterverse
one.
So the Monsterverse, written by Visionary and Hack, Alex Kurtzman, released in 2017. It was The Mummy. They tried to make They literally tried to make Universal monster movies into an Avengers universe, and it failed after that movie. That movie was so bad. But for whatever reason, they had a movie tie-in game that was 2D and pixelated, and it plays like Metroid. It's a Metroidvania. It's actually got a neat mechanic where I think if you die, you turn into a zombie. So you don't play as one character, you play as this endless horde of soldiers. So you have to go recover your dead body, I think, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it's also a roguelike.
No, it's a Metroidvania. It's just when you die, I think you come back as a new soldier, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a surprisingly decent little game, and it's for the fucking Mummy movie. I find is hilarious.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of good, name brand property games that are any good anymore. So good on them.
I was gonna say, like, movie tie-in games used to be a big thing. Have we gotten them at all, like, in the last few years?
Oh, they exist, but no one plays them.
But like we've gotten games that will have a brand, like you had the Avengers game or Guardians of the Galaxy, but that wasn't a tie-in for a specific movie. Like, that wasn't Iron Man 2, the video game, like we don't really get those. We don't really get those anymore. I don't think.
Not really.
Instead you get DLC in Fortnite.
We're probably better off for it.
You play as Batman. I think we're better off for it too.
Yeah, I'd rather keep playing Insomniac Spider-Man than Spider-Man.
It's pizza time.
Based off, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. They should remaster Spider-Man 2.
They should.
I'm surprised they haven't already.
I'm shocked they haven't either.
I think there's a trophy in the Miles Morales Insomniac Spider-Man game where you can, if you visit the Italian restaurant, the famous one, you get a trophy. I think. So it's not completely gone. In our hearts, it lives on.
The other game I just remember was Momodora. But sorry, go ahead.
What was the game?
Momodora. It was a pixelated game where you go through a forest and you fight with a leaf. It's very cool.
I remember that.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
But yeah, I guess I'll go now. I'm very weird in my connection to Metroid. So I've kind of explained this on streams before, but I'll repeat myself here. So the very first Metroid game I played, and I shit you not, was Metroid Prime Hunters for the Nintendo DS.
Let's go.
And I did a Prime Hunters stream, by the way, where I emulated it. Played through the whole game. God awful game. I don't think anybody who says that game is good needs to play it because it's not good. It's the one Metroid Prime game. It's the one Metroid Prime game that doesn't have a lock-on. And the DS controls are horrible. Like, you need a lock-on for that. And this isn't a Prime Hunters discussion. But I played the multiplayer of that a lot, like with my friends at school, with my cousins. For the longest time, to me, that was kind of Metroid. Like, oh, it's a DS game where you shoot at people. And more interestingly enough, that was the first FPS I ever played. So I'm an FPS guy. After that, I got to play the original Halo, Combat Evolved, on an Xbox. The big, chunky, black Xbox. Played through Halo, played through a lot of FPSs, got into COD. And then eventually, I kind of really didn't touch Metroid at all until very recently. When I got a gaming PC, and I was kind of looking back at, like, I was starting to emulate games. And so I kind of got into the Metroid Prime series because I had seen it pop up. People talked about it a lot, and specifically somebody, I forget who made the mod. It was this thing called Prime Hack, and that's what I stream with it to this day. And it lets you emulate it uses the Metroid Prime trilogy for the Wii, which was essentially converted Metroid Prime 1 and 2 to Wiimote controls, which are very clunky controls, but you combine it to a mouse. So what this guy did was he made Metroid 1 and 2 playable with mouse and keyboard. You have all these settings, like with FOV, model placement, that type of stuff. And so that was my first experience with the Prime series. I'm adamant, I think Prime 1 is probably my favorite game in the series. It's even up there as like a really good FPS game. Like, it's genuinely amazing. and I'm not even really a fan of Metroidvania games. So to me, kind of playing Prime 1 was a unique experience for an FPS player because you had backtracking, upgrades. It became important to like be aware of like the environment. Like you weren't just going through a linear level. Like even with a game like Doom, like I love Doom. Those levels are big and expansive, but you only go through them once. It's a linear game. But with Metroid Prime, it was so weird to like be able to kind of backtrack all the way across the map. And that was really appealing to me, especially since I had played a little bit of the Prime Hunter single player as a kid. It was kind of like picking it up. Like I was already kind of familiar with it, but it was actually a really good experience. And from there, I've kind of been trying to experiment with playing the other 2D Metroid games. So I was playing a little bit of Super Metroid. Haven't gotten that far into that game yet. I was playing a little bit of Fusion, which I kind of agree with Titus. It's a very different type of Metroid game, but it's still pretty good, I'd say. I'd say like of 2D games, I think that's my favorite graphically of any Metroid game. Metroid Fusion, such a beautiful looking game. And then kind of the same thing with Titus, where for whatever reason I had listened in, like I'd heard about Dread, like because it's literally an Easter egg in, I think it's Prime 3. And even then, looking back at the Easter egg, it makes no sense. It just says the Dread project is currently underway. So lore-wise, like it doesn't make sense, but it's just teasing a 2D Metroid game. So it was interesting to me when I saw that Metroid reveal and they showed off it was Dread. Kind of the lead up to Dread, I was a little conflicted on it. It looked a little cheaper. I knew that Mercury Steam was making it, and I remember they made the Metroid Samus Returns remake for the 3DS. And kind of in the lead up to Dread, I played a little bit of that. I wasn't too big of a fan on it. I might revisit it. Specifically, the thing I didn't like, and this is going to be hilarious now when talking about Dread, is I didn't like the parrying. I thought that was really bad.
That's pretty succinct, actually.
Yeah.
That's exactly what my thought process was on that one.
Although I will say it's not as bad in Dread. I think just those 3DS controls were god awful, like not having a proper controller to play the game with.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't play the remake, but from what I've heard, yeah, a lot of people had issues with the parrying system, but it wasn't anywhere as bad in Dread.
Yeah, it's very, and it is just the clunky 3DS controls. We'll talk more about that later, but it's also weird how Dread on the Switch technically has the same button layout as the 3DS game. Like if you've played it, you notice it doesn't make any use of that right stick, which is because the 3DS only has one circle stick. It only has one analog stick. So Mercury Steam obviously must have just used like the same control scheme or the same engine, whatever. And so the lead up to, it makes sense when you think about it. You can play it like a 3DS game. But the lead up to it, I wouldn't say I was necessarily looking forward to it. I was mildly interested in it. But again, I was kind of in the mindset, like I was aware of what happened to AM2R, and I was aware that there was controversy in that Nintendo shut down this amazing fan project, which Nintendo does. I mean, let's be real, that's all they do. And
copyright laws are interesting.
But apparently it was for the lead up for the Metroid 2, their version of the Metroid 2 remake. And I guess I still haven't gotten like general consensus of it. I've heard some people like it. Widely it's considered to be inferior to AM2R. So to me, I was kind of going into that like, oh, this is a series that hasn't been good since arguably Metroid Prime 3, arguably since Metroid Prime 2, if we're being real.
People would say Fusion.
True. With me, I love Prime. So to me, the Prime series, that's the last good games before the long desert, dry spell.
That's the crazy thing. This Prime and Fusion came out the same year.
They did. Prime 1, yeah.
And the cool thing was, this is back when Nintendo was trying to make like Game Boy games cross over to GameCube games.
Mhm.
If you had a GameCube adapter controller for your Game Boy Advance or SP later, you could sync up your Metroid Fusion data to Metroid Prime to get the Fusion suit in Prime.
So they've done in the because I'm playing on for the stream I've been playing on PC through emulator.
Mhm.
So I've been playing the Wii version of the game, and for that the Fusion suit, they've done a weird system. I'm going to go off on a little weird Metroid Prime trilogy tangent. They've
Alright,
made
go
like
for it.
this. They've
Go
made
for
this
it.
weird like in-game currency system for that game, where like if you defeat like a boss in Prime 1, you get like a little token, like a silver token or something, and you can use those tokens to buy stuff. Like you can buy pictures and concept art, and then one of the things you can buy is the Fusion suit. So I didn't know that on the original GameCube version you could just plug in your Fusion data. I didn't know that for the
Yeah.
Game Boy.
And on top of that, it would also unlock the original Metroid game for the NES to be playable as an emulator in the menu screen.
I remember hearing about that because they originally wanted to do Super Metroid.
Because
weren't
I
able
was
to.
able to. I never actually owned an NES. So that was the only way I ever got to play the original
Really?
Metroid and beat it.
You emulated it from
The GameCube.
Metroid
on the
Prime.
Metroid menu.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. I love that. Because I always see those Easter eggs. I forget what game it was. There is a Time Splitters emulator in Homefront, one of the Homefront games. I think it's Homefront: The Revolution, the badly performing open world Homefront game, like just some FPS game. There is hidden in there a Time Splitters emulator. You can play like I think it's like Time Splitters 2 maybe. You can play through the entire game, allegedly, in that game. And I always wonder, like, does anybody actually go through and do that? But apparently someone does.
Oh no.
I didn't know that.
I've
That was
outed
amazing.
myself.
Speed run, get to Time Splitter, any percent.
Yeah, true.
Look, man, you get one game a year. You make the most use out of that one game.
That is true.
That's true.
Was
That's
it,
true.
Was it Animal Crossing for the GameCube where you could get
Like
various
26 NES games.
Yeah, a bunch of NES ROMs. So that'd be the game to go to.
Yeah.
Anyway, kind of getting back to where I was talking about, with kind of in the lead up to Metroid Dread, that's when I kind of expanded. Even now, I've kind of gotten into retro game collection. I now own a GameCube. Obviously, it's platinum. That was a must. And now I actually own the original Metroid games.
Nice.
So I'm thinking of actually going through and playing them with the god-awful GameCube controls. Let's be real.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
There are two analog sticks,
no.
and they don't make use of they don't make use of the C stick. Halo came out in 2001. Any game after that, any console game after that has no excuse for having bad first-person controls.
You can't insult the GameCube controller, man. You're gonna get people upset.
I'm about to say,
The GameCube
1v1 me,
controller,
Fox, Final Destination. Let's do this.
the GameCube controller is a fine controller. I just don't think the devs of Metroid Prime understood how to use it, or how a human being is able to look around instead of Samus walks around like Doom, like she can only look left or right. She has to stand. It actually plays a lot like GoldenEye, where like for whatever reason you can only use one analog stick at a time. Because I don't know. Again, Halo came out a year prior. They should have known better. They should have at least known for Metroid Prime 2. That's inexcusable. Anyway, but yeah, I've kind of gone into that game collection, and I am currently trying to get Fusion for my GBA SP, as well as Zero Mission, but again, it's hard to find those game cartridges.
Right.
And yeah, when Dread released, I kind of knew going in as it was coming out. The review scores were coming out really great, and then people were talking about it. I'm like, okay, so this game is doing really well. Obviously, it's doing something right. And then I got it a few weeks ago, played through it, and here we are today.
Perfect game for them to release around Halloween.
I was about to bring that up.
I guess if we want to move on, overall impressions of Dread. So, did we like it? Dislike it? I think I know the answer to all three of us. Maybe throughout some specific aspects without going into too much detail.
Right.
What you like, why you liked it. Maybe what were some aspects you didn't like. You liked the game overall. What was something you weren't a fan of? And then just list like standout features and stuff like that.
Right. I'll start. No one minds.
Go for it.
Okay. So I liked it a lot. I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite of the Metroid games I've played, because I just kind of have a soft spot for Fusion, but it was really, really good. I liked it more than Super Metroid, which I know is blasphemous to a lot of people, but I don't have that kind of sentimental attachment to Metroid, so I'm sure if someone made a similar statement about the Pokemon franchise, I'd probably yell at them, but this isn't about that. I thought it was good. I think that Mercury Steam did an admirable job, and I think they can be trusted with the Metroid franchise going forward. I think Nintendo, if they were smart, so it may or may not happen, but they should probably get them to regularly put out new Metroid 2D games once every couple years, because I think now the franchise is well off enough that they don't have to just leave it buried for decades on end. Aspects I like.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, we might be getting more Metroid games because of the success of Dread. We haven't gotten the full sales. We haven't gotten the full sales report, but apparently this is up there to be the best-selling Metroid game in Japan.
Nice.
For whatever reason, Metroid sells really badly in Japan.
It's not very anime.
Even the 2D
I got
games.
I got a lot of the figure sales right now. So the original NES Metroid sold 2.73 million copies overall.
Yes.
Not bad.
Are you reading the sales list right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And to put it in perspective, Metroid Samus Returns got only 500,000.
It's a very low selling series. If I remember correctly, Metroid Prime 1 is currently the highest selling game, and it if I remember correctly, it didn't even break 3 million.
It's 2.84 million right now.
Yep. So like, to put that into perspective, like that's kind of the same level as like Animal Crossing 1. So like, if you take that into consideration, like the GameCube didn't even sell that many copies, period. So like Animal Crossing will sell like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison, because Animal Crossing Wild World sold 14 million. So like Metroid is a very small fish in Nintendo's big pond. So anybody, and honestly, just knowing those sales numbers, you know why Nintendo doesn't release constant Metroid games.
Yeah.
There's not really much of an audience. I hope this game breaks at least some records. Or at the very least, like, it's pretty good. At the very least, it shows Nintendo that there is an audience here. There's a customer base. Right.
Yeah, I agree. I hope it changes things up. I would like more variety in the Nintendo lineup as a big Nintendo fan. A fan of their games, anyway.
Yeah, I'm about to say that's the distinction we have to make these days.
Yeah. I don't approve of a lot of their business practices, but
yep.
We're not going into that, but but yeah, a lot of their game franchises are iconic for a reason. I like a lot of their games. So yeah, hopefully Metroid, it picks up again regularly. As far as aspects that I liked, without going into too many details and stuff we're probably going to talk about later, I think my favorite part is just seeing a modern Metroid. I really like I was saying earlier, I really like the GBA style pixel graphics because they look really nice to me. But there just is something a little magical about seeing Metroid with, modern HD graphics, on par with a modern game. I think it's the best Metroid has ever looked since Prime 1 or 2 probably. So I think it's pretty crazy to be just I don't know, just to see Samus and she's not in SNES sprite. An SNES sprite, I just think it's kind of wild. As far as aspects I didn't really like, I think the biggest one is on. I'll talk about it more later. I won't go into too much detail, but I didn't like the Emmys. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I didn't really care for the Emmys very much.
I'm happy to go down that rabbit hole with you.
Yeah,
Right.
same.
I'll go.
And we can talk.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about that more in like gameplay. So yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, that's about it for now. Yeah, it had a lot of great, stuff that they improved on, like a lot of the new expansions on your abilities. There were a few new ones, like the invisibility cloak. That was really cool. I believe there was one or two other ones that were really good. The story was fantastic, in my opinion. So yeah, I won't go too much more into that, but yeah, I think it was a great game. A solid 9 out of 10. I had my issues with it, but I would recommend it to anybody who just likes a solid Metroidvania or who likes
Also,
sci-fi.
Just interjecting here. I was thinking about saying this earlier. I'm pretty sure this whole stream is just going to be like spoiler warnings. Because I was I was gonna say like maybe wait for spoilers when we talk about the story, but like there's more to this game than just the story. Like talking about gameplay aspects, like that will be spoiling some stuff. So just overall, this stream, big spoiler warning. And even then, like that's kind of the good thing about this game. Like knowing the spoilers, you can still enjoy it. At least I think you can. Is it
Nintendo Twitter cough?
Is like a classic Nintendo game is the gameplay holds up. Like knowing the story doesn't ruin the game.
Right.
But
would have been nice if it wasn't spoiled on Twitter from Nintendo themselves, though.
Was it spoiled by them?
Dude, when we get to it, a certain boss fight, I'll bring it up again. But yes, they spoiled a lot of things.
Really, I didn't know that.
So I live in a hovel swamp, right? Yeah, I'm kind of off Twitter and all that. So please tell me about what happened, because
okay, yeah, I'll for sure.
I wasn't near the internet for like 3 weeks when Dread came out.
Yeah, for sure. When we get to talking about the bosses, I'll bring that up for sure.
I literally, Titus, I literally have a note on my sheet that says bosses. So we're gonna talk about that. Don't worry.
All right, great. But yeah, that's all for me for right now.
All right, Burke, you want to go?
Yeah, I got one word for everything I liked about this whole thing: movement. It felt good to move in that game, and I've always think that's been an important part of Metroid. As someone who speedruns a lot, like Super Metroid is one of those games. It may not be the most fun casually, and I think that is a very valid thing, even though I hard disagree. I can understand why but when you get into like movement tech, and Fusion did the same thing. Once you get speed boosters and you start playing with those levels they made, oh, magnificent. So being able to slide and all that, with the things they took from Metroid Samus Returns, which in my opinion was the game that tried to run and tripped on its face so Dread could go into a dead sprint while being a magical acrobat lady. Yes, I love the movement in this game. I can't overstate it enough. The grapple beam was fun, and that's not really a spoiler. That's been a staple for a long time. But yeah, I love this game. And it's also really refreshing to have it be so difficult. Like, oh, did you get hit twice? You're dead. Oh, okay. So yeah, and as someone coming back, like Titus said, it was beautiful. It felt good to see Samus look that good. The enemies look that good. The interactions from the counters, the parries, and just like the general animations of watching enemies move, it felt good. It just felt very lively. And then with the enemies, since we've already brought that up, I loved how they moved like so efficiently and gracefully.
There was something I noticed, and I think it's consistent with how they move, is they move with their legs inverted. So they move with their back legs first and their front legs pushing them back. So you notice in all of their animations, like when they're crawling through a vent, they move so creepily. We'll talk more about we'll talk more about the enemies. We have a category for that. Don't worry.
Right.
But yeah, I really enjoyed a lot of the design. I think my least favorite thing about the game, and it's weird to say this because the series for a long time has had such good musical composition. The only time I got stoked for music was when they did the remixes here and there from other games. And I hate to say that for a Metroid game, because I've always felt like if you told me, hey, name of game here, can you remember one song of it? And I'd be like, yeah, I remember X song, Penumbra Drift from, Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion. I can think of the opening theme. I can think of the SAX theme off the top of my head right now. If you gave me Metroid Dread, which I've put about 20 hours in now for 3 different run-throughs, I can't really recall any of the music.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about music too, don't worry.
But I'm saying that's my least favorite aspect of the game.
I couldn't remember any of the music either. There were some tracks I did enjoy, but I literally can't remember the music.
Yeah, I agree with that. It did its purpose, but none of them really stand out.
And the big standout feature, like I said, was the difficulty, and also the puzzles later for when you want to 100% the game. For someone who likes really tight movement controls, boy howdy, they were like, oh yeah, we got something for you, man. I think Mercury Studio knocked it out of the park and understood their mistakes from Samus Returns. And that's my final statement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Golf clap. Golf clap. Golf clap.
Golf clap.
Thank you.
My overall impressions of Dread, I liked it. You both kind of touched upon how, like, to you liked how there was just a new Metroid game. What's interesting, I didn't really have that, because again, I don't have much connection to the 2D Metroid series. I enjoyed... Because I do enjoy Metroidvania as a genre. And this game was a very good Metroidvania game. And I enjoyed the... I appreciate how difficult it was. I more so liked this game in the sense that Nintendo can make... Not just Nintendo, but like we can have games like this made by AAA developers. Like we can have a weird, hard 2D Metroidvania game made by fucking Nintendo. Like that's incredible. And it actually, and then, you know, it's a game that actually like builds upon the series. Like it adds new abilities and stuff. Also, like, yeah, Burke, you mentioned like there's a speed fluidity to it. I'm gonna kind of say something sacrilegious. I think I'm not too big of a fan of the movement in Super Metroid. It's a little slow.
It's
jumping,
awkward.
It's a little awkward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even kind of
It's
like
not sacrilegious. I speedrun the game, and
like,
I will tell
like
you.
visiting, and like even visiting Fusion. Like it's a slow game, but I do appreciate the innovations they made, like being able to climb up ledges and stuff. Like it's all good stuff there. Playing the Samus Returns remake, the Nintendo remake. I forget, is it Metroid Samus Returns or Return of Samus? Return of Samus is the original, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Samus Returns is the remake. Okay.
Yeah, I
Samus
think it's
Returns
Samus
is the 3DS game, yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. With Samus Returns, it was... I haven't replayed that game. I probably should, but I remember the movement in that being pretty clunky as well. It's a pretty... Especially compared to Dread. Dread is very smooth. It's definitely the best feeling 2D Metroid game out there. Being able to, like, you know, literally bounce off walls, climb up ledges and stuff. The speed boost was very difficult to get a hold of. You mentioned, like, 100%ing the game. I had no incentive to do that after I found out how hard it was to get to certain areas.
Yeah.
I did struggle with that, but it was very good stuff. Overall, I like the game. I'm glad that this game is doing well. I hope that's a sign to Nintendo to just kind of keep it up. Stuff I wasn't too big of a fan of. The parrying, I wasn't too big of a fan on that. I also wasn't necessarily a fan of the not just the graphics, but the art style. A little muddy. It's kind of a muddy game. That was actually a big worry I had going in with the lead up to Dread. And it's specifically just that first area that you're in, it's all like, it's brown and gray. And then when you enter an Emmy zone, it has like this kind of weird contrast filter going on, like this weird vignette filter. And it looked kind of just ugly. And it's not even like graphics fidelity, because people mix that up. When I talk about art style and visuals, I'm not talking about the graphics actually like looking, you know, top-notch AAA. I'm just kind of talking about art style. Like, compare that to a game like Fusion. Fusion is such a beautiful game to me.
It's
Beautiful.
vibrant.
Beautiful.
We'll talk about art style later.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was kind of. There's only really one area that I thought was a standout, and I think that was Gavorin. I forget how you pronounce that. Just because that had vegetation in it, so that was like the standout area. And then yeah, standout features. I liked how hard it was. I was pretty bad at it, but I appreciate that we can have a game this difficult, like in 2021. That isn't just like a game where you push to go forward and is full of quick time events and stuff.
Any games that make game journalists upset coming out nowadays is okay with me.
I was
Because
worried.
that means it's good.
I was worried of treading into that territory, but yeah.
Sorry.
Titus is fearless, man. He doesn't fear anything.
What makes that worse is that the guy who was complaining about that was a game designer. That was a Sony game designer.
Oh,
That was the guy who made God of War. And it's like, oh, that explains everything. The game where you literally push the A button, push the X button to win. All right, I shouldn't be making fun of God of War.
I mean, I
like-
understand the criticism.
yeah.
I understand.
I like a lot of Sony games, but there is
It's
some
funny
merit to
coming-
what you're saying.
It's funny coming from a game designer, which shows kind of where the industry's at these days. Like, it's refreshing to have a game that complicated in the mainstream, and like people are playing it. Like people, my little sister was playing it. And it's like that's amazing that like we can have that.
It's good.
But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I liked it. Don't really have much nostalgia for Metroid 2D games, so I kind of appreciated it on its own. I did have some problems with it, which we can get into a little more. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it, my general thoughts. All right, if you guys don't have anything else to say, we can get started, like going through various aspects and traits of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. First up, most important part of a Metroid game, in my opinion, the gameplay. Did we like it? Did we not like it? Well, stuff that was good with the combat, stuff that could be improved, and I'll let one of you guys lead.
I've been going first for a while, so why don't you take it up, Burke?
About to say, I got some fire for the gameplay overall. I really, as someone who's been playing this game for a while, it felt good to be able to aim in a 360 scope. Because I played on a actually, it's funny you mentioned this. I actually played on a GameCube adapter controller. So like I have the spring C stick, and it felt really good to aim, but it felt good to just be so aggressive. At least that's how I played this game. I got time for none of this. I'm just gonna go through you. Parry, go, move, just keep shooting. Like, it was fantastic. And I loved like this kind of Metroid's always been more of like, you're gonna tear here and kind of do what you need to shoot, or you take your time to kill things. Dread, I always felt like go, you just gotta go, God,
Right.
It does have a very frantic energy to it.
And I really enjoyed that. And let's talk about some of the set pieces too. Like, you have to escape the factory at some point. I'll keep it vague what part it is, but you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, we can go
going everywhere.
I think we're full spoilers.
Okay.
At this point. Yeah.
So when you go through the teleport and you have to escape that factory,
yes,
I loved it. Sorry, I didn't mean to peek there.
No, you're good. It happens.
You're good. You're good on my end. I have the audio mixer right here.
So
Don't worry.
just the fact that like the game was like, hey, you're gonna move now and you're gonna have to think on your feet. I'm like, yes, this is what I signed up for. Panic moments.
There was a lot of that, wasn't there?
Yeah.
We had to run through a gauntlet. Specifically with Emmys, and we'll get to that.
Right.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really fun gameplay, and I'll touch on like the booster puzzles. I really loved those. Cause like it really. So as someone who like grew up trying to speedrun Super Metroid, there's a very common trick that you have to use where you go into Morph Ball while you're using Shine Spark. Like before you get to it, and it's like a double perfect frame input.
It's
not quite that tight. It's not quite that
but
tight.
yeah, I
It
know
always
I
felt
know
that tight to me.
But I know exactly.
But being able to do it again in a new game with as a mandatory way to get some things done. Oh, it just felt like someone was like, "Oh yeah, we saw what effort you put in. Here, we made a puzzle for you that you have to do it that way." And I'm like, someone understands, you know?
Right, yeah.
So I might be on the extreme side of this, but I really appreciate that they went out of their way to make things like that. But on the flip side, for the person that doesn't know these things, that's kind of rough.
That person is me. Those puzzles frustrated the shit out of me, which is why I didn't 100% the game, or didn't even try to. I did pretty well. I did collect a lot of stuff, but those puzzles where it's like you have to sit. There was one puzzle, I forget what area it was in, but basically you had this area where you'd have to essentially jump up all the way to get to these speed boost blocks. And that area frustrated me to no end. And because I never quite got a hang of the Shine Spark, or specifically actually the charge, like knowing, because like if you have it, you can bounce on walls. I only found that out later, where you can bounce on a wall and you still maintain it. But yeah, it was very frustrating for me. That's kind of the stuff that I wasn't necessarily a fan of as a newbie.
Right. Does anyone mind if I go?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Cool. So, I guess I'll start off, because we were just talking about, I'll start off with the things I didn't like. I see why Burke likes it. Like, you know, from the perspective of a longtime fan or a speedrunner, I completely understand. And I'm not even saying it's bad. But I will say, as a more casual Metroid fan, it was a bit frustrating. Now I will say I did 100% the game. Well, I didn't unlock all the stuff in the, you know, archives and everything, but I did collect everything, and I only did one run. I wanted to do one run where I just collected everything and saw everything, and then I finished. So I took my time, because when I play, I'm the type of guy who, when I play a game, I search every corner. You know, I check everything meticulously. I backtrack a lot to make sure I didn't miss anything. Anytime a new area unlocks, I retrace my steps to make sure something new didn't unlock somewhere else. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. So, you know, the journey of exploring in and of itself is more exciting to me than the puzzles, especially ones that are, you know, a little bit more speedrunner-esque, that demand a bit more out of you, like the fast moving one. I forget what the tool is called. The
Speed Booster.
Speed
Shine
Booster.
Spark?
Yeah, the
Shine
Speed
Spark,
Booster
yeah.
and Shine Spark puzzles. Now, I did manage to do them, but I would be lying if I told you I wasn't very frustrated while I was trying to do them.
Yep.
I get why they're in it, and you know, it's like that kind of stuff has always been in Metroid, and I'm sure for people who have been waiting for a new 2D Metroid for ages, who get to see this, you know, it must be a blessing. So I'm not saying it's bad. It's not even bad game design. It's just not typically the type of thing I like in a game. So I'm not really a fan of it, but I can't really say it was bad at all.
It's just a niche thing. And that's
By no means is it bad, yeah.
It's just a niche thing. And that's kind of why I'm like, oh, this is cool that someone went out of the way to do that for someone like me.
Yeah, for sure. As I think maybe a way around it could have been if they somehow implemented a toggle that if you were a casual or a younger fan, maybe you could hold on to your Shine Spark infinitely, or your super jumps infinitely. Maybe that could have fixed it, but I feel like that's kind of also against the spirit of it. So I don't know. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm a game designer and I know what I'm talking about. But yeah.
I will tell you, if you could hold it infinitely, you could do some jank stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I'd love to see that. Just being able to exploit the game's engine.
There's already so many sequence breaks in that game, because
I've heard.
I had Morph Ball before I got to Kraid on my first playthrough.
Nice.
Which I don't know if you knew about this. You can go in Kraid's belly.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that on YouTube. There was a secret. There was just you know how YouTube is. They spoil everything in their thumbnails. Yeah, someone's like, "Oh, did you know you could do this?" And it was, yes. There's apparently a way you can just end Kraid early by
God, that
going
Kraid boss.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you
just-
do a
it's
couple
cool.
sequence breaks, and that's really cool that they even made that a thing. And that's what I'm saying. It's super niche, but I love it.
Right.
Mm.
Other things I didn't like. The only other thing I can really think of off the top of my head is I don't like the parrying. I think it's
Yep.
better than from what I've heard it was like in
Way-
Samus Returns.
It's way
It's
more
way
tolerable.
better than Samus Returns. Still could do without it.
Right. It's just like, like, especially, I'll go more into it when we get to the boss fight area, but there's segments of pretty much every boss fight where you need to parry a move to move on to the next stage of the boss fight. And, it's just like, I don't want to do, like, basically,
The QTE.
yes, thank you, a quick time event to move on to the next stage. It's like, if I survived this long and managed around the patterns, but it all comes down to QTE. What if I just have really bad impulse control? Like I can't hit the buttons properly enough, or you have a really bad sense of rhythm. I mean, I managed it fine. It just, I wasn't a huge fan of it.
Honestly, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
For me, I think the parrying, it worked for the Emmys in that, like, it was like just a dice roll, like whether or not, like, you're about to die, like if you can quick escape, like, kudos on you. But like actually having it as a part of bosses felt kind of like, I don't know. I feel like the game could have done better without them.
Right.
And again, we'll talk more about that. Like you mentioned before, like understanding a boss's patterns, like that should be the strategy, not waiting for a boss to line up his animation and then, you have to time it correctly. I felt kind of weird.
Yeah.
I'm in a different school because, like, the Chozo soldiers that you fight midway through,
Right.
and then you fight two of them. What was
Mhm.
super exciting for me was more of like this frantic fight, and then you see like a tell before they do the thing you can parry, and that's so exciting because then you're like, oh cool, I can parry this guy and then focus on the other guy while he's stunned. I don't know. It just comes down to if you can make the snap decisions with it. I understand why it's frustrating, especially if you mess it up a lot, and I did.
The best part about those Chozo warriors is when you unlock the I forget what it's called with the multiple missiles.
Oh, the storm
Yes.
And you're just you realize you can just spam them and they die immediately, and it's like, oh, this is it.
Yeah,
This is
no,
the strategy.
that was definitely my strategy. I'll just infinite, ball morph jump around them. I'll just juke them out and then just spam them with storm missiles and then repeat process until they're dead. I played the long game. Maybe that wasn't the right way to play, because I know some people.
I played it safe. I wasn't getting
I played
in the way.
it safe. Yeah.
Man, it is exciting to hear these strategies because, like, I was just so like in the face of everything.
I was like
I just
jumping
wanted to
over
be
them,
Doomslayer
like,
2.0.
It's like,
I mean,
Samus.
the way I was playing it was like the way you would play it in Doom, which is stay away from all the enemies and just send barrages of missiles into them because you have plenty of ammo.
I just feel
and,
like it was
running
like,
all over the place.
I just feel like for me it was like, Samus may be a badass, but I'm sure not, and I'm controlling her, so I should probably play it safe. Because I don't have the reflexes that she surely does in universe, and I don't want to create more alternate bad timelines. The more I risk it. Yeah.
That's
All right.
interesting. That.
And then
Yeah.
do you want to
Oh yeah. As far as
talk about gameplay stuff that you did like?
yeah. So stuff I did like. I think my favorite thing as far as gameplay wise would have just been, I just really like the feeling of this is such a strange thing to say. I really like jumping, like the morph ball jumps are so, once you finally get them, so satisfying. To just infinitely jump through the air. I just really enjoy it. And when you get to just ram into enemies mid jump to destroy them, it's really fun. And also just the controls, like you were saying earlier, we have 360 controls. It's about time You know, that felt good. That felt good. I won't pretend I always hit every shot because I'm not
I
gonna
didn't
pretend
even-
I'm some god of gaming. But it was nice you could do it. It felt clean.
I didn't even think about that. The 360, because I'm guessing Samus Returns had it as well. I'm pretty sure it did.
It did.
But like, yeah, with Fusion, that was the last game that had a D-pad for aiming.
Mm.
You could use the shoulder buttons to aim up 45
To-
degrees or
To,
down
like
to
45
aim at
degrees.
to aim at a perfect 45-degree angle, because all enemies, are in that exact cone of vision.
Yeah.
Also, the missiles are just really satisfying. Hitting a storm missile shot barrage, it's
It's
just
the best.
feels good. Feels good.
Boys,
man.
how do we feel about the missile economy? Because it's booming in that game.
Oh yeah, there's so many missiles.
I had so many missiles. It got to the point where it's like, oh, another missile expansion that I accidentally found.
I actually took a little bit too long to take out the final boss, and on one attempt, and I ran out of missiles because of how many QTEs I was missing.
I saw. Yep, I
That's rough,
saw that
dude.
as well. Yeah.
I went the other route, which was called breaking the shoot button, because I was just spamming regular shot because it does enough damage.
Mhm.
But my thumb got exhausted on that fight. But yeah, those missiles were dope.
Yeah, but yeah, it just felt good to play Samus. The game really makes you feel like an intergalactic bounty hunter.
Makes you feel
badass.
like Batman.
Really makes you feel like a girl boss.
What was that game review that gave one of the Arkham games a really good score? And I think it was IGN, where they have like the pros and cons. Like they try to boil down the entire game review to like 3 sentences, and one of them was, it makes you feel like Batman.
I feel like they
10
did
out
that
of
with
10.
was it SpiderMan where they said it
Oh,
like one of
God.
the Insomniac I'm not gonna say what they said because it
Oh,
was,
yes,
it
yes,
got-
yeah, I
you
know,
what I'm
I know,
talking
Wagger.
I know, Titus, I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're.
yeah, that was bad, but
It
I mean, I
was-
don't think it was made maliciously, but like it out of context,
Oh.
it sounds pretty awful.
It was a choice.
no, I'm just-
I don't know how they decided. Yeah, that seems good to put out, but you
That
know,
was
Uh,
like-
I don't know.
Oh, that
more
was.
power to you.
How do I remember that? That was funny. Now
Yeah,
I'm just thinking about it.
I felt it really makes you feel the exaggerated swagger of Samus Aran.
A woman raised by birds.
So does she tweet a lot?
Oh.
I'm leaving. I'm sorry.
I do like the headcanon that a lot of fans have, in that she's like a complete social outcast, or like autist. Like she has no social interaction with humans whatsoever when she was a little kid.
I think it's
Have you
because
I
played
do
three?
find that kind of
That's
funny.
Prime 3? It's good to meet you, Samus, as you just stand there
You
awkwardly
just,
and leave.
you just stare at her, stare at them, not saying anything.
I've always seen it as, I mean, I haven't played the Prime games, mind you, but I've always seen it as on top of the whole wanting to keep it a mostly silent protagonist kind of treatment. I feel like it may, like, yes, I'm sure she is somewhat awkward, and stoic, but I've always seen it more as every person she cares about ends up getting hurt or worse, so why would she bother connecting with anyone? Which, I mean,
It's-
fair enough.
Kind of going. I mean, this is a tangent, but I'm more than happy to go off into tangents. Her not speaking, honestly, in the Prime games, Prime 1 and 2, it makes sense because you're just all by yourself on this alien planet. It's like, of course you're not going to talk. Like, she has nothing to say. She's like walking around by herself. As an FPS fan, I much prefer a silent protagonist. It's easier to get into their head. It's easy to project into them. Like when you
Right.
play Metroid Prime, you are Samus. There's a cool feature in that game where if a bright explosion goes off, you can see her face's reflection like in the screen.
Oh, that's
Like you're
sick.
the one in the It's so cool. Like they have this 3D
We could go
model
all
of her.
day
We could
about
talk.
all the cool little things about Metroid
Burke, we need
Prime.
we need to talk about Metroid Prime someday.
We will. I will need alcohol
totally
for
will.
that one, though.
I'll see. I'll bring other people on.
I'll save a nice
but-
red wine for that one.
Oh, I'm coming over. I'll make the meatballs.
Nice.
Otherwise, if you have Samus talking too much, you get Metroid Other M.
Right.
You don't want that.
Oh no.
I think
It's
we
good
could
when
talk
she's
about
sad.
it. I think we could talk about it more in story, but major spoilers.
The baby.
Yeah, but like the fact
Adam.
she did emote a little bit in this game, I thought it was at moments where I felt like it was appropriate and it made it more impactful.
I thought I agree, it was appropriate. I thought her facial expressions were very funny, and we'll talk more about that in the story.
I'm about to say, there's a total of 3 times in the game they will speak. And every time was hype.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's how, Samus talking should be handled. Like, if I think she's less of a player surrogate than someone like Link, who, while he technically has his own character, for the most part, he is a really big player surrogate. I think Samus has a bit more, she has a bit more going on than that, enough that it warrants it. But I do think it needs to be kept to like really short, poignant, powerful moments like what they did in Dread. Otherwise, you get another experience.
I think she's the reason she's not fully a player surrogate is just because the series has gone on for as long as it has. Like, we'll talk more about it by the story, but like by the end of it, there is like so much wrong with like her DNA, like all this shit that's part of
Yeah.
it. It's like with Legend of Zelda, like the Link we saw in Breath of the Wild was a completely new character, so it's
Right.
easy to keep him kind of like a blank slate. Obviously Samus in Metroid was just that, it was a blank slate. But yeah, we can talk more about that in the story. Do you want to talk more about gameplay stuff you like, Titus?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. It just felt really good. The game felt good to play.
I guess I'll kind of wrap up this section. I liked the gameplay. You guys kind of touched upon points already. Had very good movement. One complaint, and this isn't necessarily a complaint about the game, this is just, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know how Metroid would even move on beyond this, but I wasn't necessarily a fan of the single joystick movement. And obviously it makes sense because Metroid, you look back at, ignoring Samus Returns, you look back at the last 2D Metroid game, Metroid Fusion, you had a D-pad and 2 buttons. Like, obviously the controls for that are going to be very limited. You look even further back to like the SNES, D-pad and 4 buttons. It's just, I've played a lot of 2D games, especially recently, that actually make good use of the dual sticks. There are games that do feel a lot better than this. I was a little frustrated by how kind of old school the controls were, and I met Mercury Steam. They were in between like a rock and a hard place. I think they made the decision that would make less people mad, which is just stick to the control scheme that we had for the 3DS game and make it feel very old school. I don't know. I guess it felt a little clunky for me, simply not being able to like move in one direction and shoot in another. That would probably just break the Metroid formula. But I don't know. I could talk about that all day. Otherwise, yeah, I liked how action-packed it was. This was like, near the end of the game when you had all the upgrades, you're just like mowing through those areas like a Terminator. But, you felt so bad just killing these like poor aliens. Like you're just completely upgraded. I like the movement, being able to, once you get that infinite jump, it kind of feels like the game is almost broken just because you can reach it literally anywhere on the map. And then, yeah, stuff I didn't like, we talked about it before, the parrying. I think it only really worked with the Emmys, because that was like a life or death situation where it's like it's so hard to nail those, but that's kind of the point. Like, and it's because managing to pull it off like the first time was amazing. It's like, oh, I actually did it.
I
but otherwise,
off every time it worked.
Of course you did.
Legend.
But
no, it didn't work every time. I'm saying I popped off when it did, but I have died many times to end.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say I did this perfect. No. Do not misconstrue this. I'm just saying when
everybody, Burke
like,
says he was able to do it his first try.
No.
I didn't like how parrying. I didn't like how parrying was used with bosses, and I mean the next we're going to talk about bosses right after this.
Let's say that's a great segue.
And I guess let's talk about bosses. Literally, yeah. Let's segue into it.
The counter animations were dope.
Thoughts on the bosses?
Oh god, they were so cool.
Bosses we liked or hated.
I didn't dislike any boss, but when I had to fight it the third time variation of Identical Suit Man, it got annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
Although by
boss
that-
was cool the first time.
By that point, they were pretty easy to cheese.
They were pretty easy to cheese the first time, at least the X Parasite stuff.
I think Kraid was probably the standout.
Kraid was hype.
Kraid, he was a good boss. He was very hard, for me at least. Learning his, because again they had the parry that I kept missing every time.
Right,
Such a
yeah.
weird.
But when you got it, mwah.
It felt good. It felt good. Now, I mentioned earlier about a certain company, not naming names, Nintendo of America.
Before you get into that, can
Yeah.
I just quick say something about bosses?
Yeah, for sure.
One thing that was missing, and I know Metroid games don't have this, but Metroid Prime does, is, and I'm shocked I even need to say this, can we just get some boss health bars here? The problem I noticed is like, because I specifically with the final boss, like, you have no idea how much damage you're actually doing to him, or whether or not you're doing damage to him. Just a little
That's
health
true.
bar, just so you can see whether or not, like, because like the good thing about Metroid Prime is some strategies work better against bosses. So like simply being able to see like, oh, you know, my regular beam as opposed to missiles is a better idea to fight this guy. Or hey, I'm not doing any damage to him, I got to change up my strategy. Not having that health bar, it was all just trial and error. Like,
Right.
even with that final boss, I literally had to Google like, why isn't he, you know, does he not take damage on this certain part? It's like, oh, because his shields is this color. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I could have just done with some health bars. Come on,
That
Nintendo.
final boss fight felt so good.
It did
For me.
feel good once you finished it. It felt really good.
I mean, I was just scared. I saw that shield.
Also-
I'm like, oh no.
we didn't
Yeah.
necessarily talk about it. How long did it take you guys on your first completion?
About
I
all
only-
your
6 hours.
all your because Burke, you did multiple.
Yeah.
Titus, how long was it for you?
I did one big playthrough where I did 100% and I played through the whole thing. It took, because I was very tedious about it. Meticulous is the right word for that, not tedious. I put in about 11 hours.
Okay, I was about the same. Although I didn't fully 100% it. Burke?
About
You
6
think-
hours. Because
Yeah,
I
that's-
just never stopped. I never slowed down.
That seems to be the standard, is 6 to 7 hours. I remember seeing people complain about that. Like, it's such a short game, but they're not going for all the secrets, that's why.
I'm about to say is like the game, if you want to just go through it, I know we're talking about this in boss battles ironically, but if you just go through it and you don't like, if you just follow the logic of, oh, I have a new area I can go to, and you just keep doing that, and then you get power up and you don't ever loop back, you will just naturally complete the game in about 5 to 6 hours, depending on how good or bad you are.
Can't imagine getting to like that final boss and not having at least like 200 missiles.
Yeah,
I had
crazy.
95. And,
Really?
I also I completed the initial game with 34% item collection.
some of us
so
are just
that-
built different.
That boss battle for me was a different thing. Where like if I get hit once, I might be out of this for the whole. I might have to restart now if I get hit on the first phase.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a big tangent. Titus, can you please tell us what was
Okay.
spoiled?
Gather around, children, and I will spin you a yarn of a great company who their hubris led them astray. So,
Are you saying Nintendo did something weird?
I know, it's crazy to think about. So I don't know if you guys know of him, but there is a YouTube creator known as Arlo. He's a puppet. He's a monster puppet. And he reviews Nintendo games.
Is he the
And,
guy who looks like is he a Muppet?
Yeah, he's the one who looks like the blue Muppet. Yeah.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
He
The
loves
rat guy?
he loves Metroid. The rap guy.
The Rat, R-A-T.
Rat. No, I don't.
There's a blue rat YouTuber as well. So sorry, just making sure.
There's a bunch of blue animal YouTubers. You'd have to be way more specific.
Yeah, fair enough.
This is not my depth.
Anyway, I'm a subscriber of him, and he really likes Metroid, and he made a video on it, which brought it to my attention. And basically, it's that Nintendo, leading up to Metroid Dread, released a bunch of trailers that revealed a ton of major story beats, of them including things like Ravenbeak, the activities of the Chozo, Quiet Robes, and the inclusion of Kraid. They straight up just revealed a trailer and they're like, hey, look at this, and Kraid's in it. And the game releases in like a month from now, by the way. Like, why would you leak? You know, Nintendo, you take down people's fan games. You're on people's case about like information that isn't even relevant anymore from like 15 years ago. You're suing people for leaking like data about like old Pokemon games from beta, but you literally are leaking your game that like is people have been waiting for almost 2 decades. You're supposed to be hyping up as much as possible. You leaked it yourselves. You leaked it.
What'd they leak about Ravenbeak? And, like,
they just showed that they were in the game. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I was like surprised that we even got any Chozo in the game in general. Like, I just assumed they were all dead. Like,
yeah.
in lore-wise. And then 2 of them just show up and I'm like, holy crap. But like,
that was still hype for me.
But then Nintendo just leaks that they're in the game at all in the trailers. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I guess like, yeah, they were in the trailer. Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah. Because when I went into the game, it wasn't really a surprise. Like, oh, the Chozo, there are some Chozo still alive. Because yeah, I guess I thought the same way. Like, the Chozo were supposed to be all gone, but there's still a few hanging on apparently. I guess I didn't necessarily know, like, and then even with Kraid, I didn't really know that was such a big reveal. Because I know Kraid, he's an iconic part of the Metroid boss lineup. I don't know. To me, it's like the cyber demon in Doom. Like, of course he's in the game. You can't have a game without him.
I mean, Kraid hasn't been in every Metroid.
Yeah, game. I guess, but like he's he's an old character though.
He's one of the original 2.
If you're in Super Metroid, you're gonna be coming back.
I just feel like it would have been more hype if they didn't show it at all. Although I will say this, thank God Ridley's not in the game. There was no purpose. There would have been no reason for Ridley to show up, and I'm really glad they didn't force him in like they did in Samus Returns.
When I was a kid,
I kind of wish Ridley was in there. I'll be honest.
Oh my God.
I was a kid.
I love him.
When I was a kid, when I beat Super Metroid. Oh, I saw someone do this.
Titus.
Oh God, oh God.
What's wrong?
I don't know what happened. Oh.
You've entered the vaporwave zone.
Oh.
What happened?
Oh God.
You have transcended. Oh God, he's going extinct. He's
something is happening reality. To your...
He's coming back.
Uh-oh, I hope that's not your internet connection looping itself.
Nothing has changed on my end.
No, it's my end. Oh God, that is definitely your connection. All right, it's back to normal. Let's hope it doesn't... Oh Jesus. God. Oh, it's happening again.
Oh no. Jeez.
Look at the pixels on his arm. You might want to try to refresh that OBS.ninja.
Okay.
Just try refreshing. Also, make sure not to connect an audio device, just to make sure.
Yeah.
And send me the link.
TLDR. I was very mad when Ridley was in Fusion. I was very upset.
You were mad at that.
Didn't I already kill this man?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I guess from that perspective. I don't know. I liked seeing him in Prime, Meta Ridley. That was fun.
But see, that was okay to me. Like,
I like Ridley as a character.
Ridley's a fun character, and it's amazing that there's this beautiful backstory about, like, oh yeah, he's murdered Samus' parents and all this stuff.
A space dragon. Also, Titus, remember to set your model at max resolution. Don't forget to do that. You're super low res.
Why am I coming in like that? I didn't change
anything. Oh God,
anything.
why are you? You're echoing. Make sure talk again.
Hello?
Okay, set your audio device to off. No, disable your audio device. And then make sure. Oh, there he goes. He's gone.
I'll fix this. I'll fix it.
All right. Sorry. What were you saying, Burke?
Yeah, I mean, we were just going on a tangent.
We're talking about Ridley. Yeah, I like how we have a space dragon that has such a deep backstory.
And then he gets brutally murdered in every game.
Um,
Am I fixing the
but
audio source or the audio output? Please help. I am
no, no, no.
I'm a
It's
dinosaur.
so it was with your VOD, that OBS.ninja. Set that up again, Titus.
Yeah.
Do you have the link for it?
Yeah, here.
Paste it in the yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Don't worry. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened either. That was
I
scary.
literally have not changed anything on the computer.
You turned into like a nightmare blob. That I will say, that's the same output. We're not getting your VTuber.
Now?
Hold on. Oh boy. Uh-oh. What have we done with science?
Has it gone too far?
Is my audio still coming in weird?
No. It was your audio with the that screen sharing thing. The
Titus,
VOD.ninja.
do you know an invisibility spell by chance?
Share your.
No,
we can
dude,
see
I
share your. We can see share your camera and share your screen. I don't know why that's happening.
I borrowed Samus's. I almost called her Metroid. I borrowed Samus's invisibility.
You can technically call her Metroid.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Someone said that that's the reason why they can keep calling the series Metroid when the Metroids have all been extinct.
That's true.
That's
Yeah, I have
hilarious.
video
Must
source.
become the baby.
I have video source on VTube Studio, so I'm not
this
sure
is
what's up.
Very professional what I'm doing right now. My browser source right on the live stream.
I can move in the way if I have to.
No, you're good. Share your camera, share your screen. Titus, are you... Oh boy, are you actually... Do you have your... Are you in VOD.ninja right now, and can you see yourself?
Yeah, I can see myself just fine.
Are you sure you pasted the right link?
Let's see.
The green link at the top. All right, that's the exact same link that you sent me before. Oh boy. Because yeah, we're not getting your model. You might just have to refresh the page.
Okay. I'll try one more time.
Weird.
Guys, I don't know if you saw it, but from our perspective, it looked like you became the rainbow.
Yeah, he turned into like this nightmare, like interdimensional demon.
That's no good. Let's fix that. Yeah, the internet's weird sometimes, you know?
Was that the extinction event for the dinosaurs? Is that what it looked like?
Yeah.
I don't know, I wasn't there. My ancestors probably were.
It was like the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Where they went into an
Yeah,
dimension.
yeah. I don't know, I wasn't around back then. I'm only 26.
That's fair.
So how does the Chozo, how do they go extinct within like less than a generation? Samus was raised by them, and yet by the time she's an adult, they're all dead.
Space
I guess
pirates.
some of them are still out there.
I just assumed the
space pirates.
And if they were so superior, how do they just disappear?
There's a lot of stories throughout.
It's a very checkmate atheist type argument.
I just sent the new link.
I'm actually about to say is that with superior technology comes with the territory superior technical mess ups.
That's very true.
That's true.
I mean, they literally have living bioweapons running around, so...
They literally built the Metroids and went, uh-oh.
Whoopsie.
We made a fucky wucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Does this new one work?
I swear to God, if it's just going to be the same link. No, it's something different. Let's try it. No, I'm getting the same... What is this? Share your screen, share your screen. What is going on? Are you in the right... Titus, are you on the right option in the VOD menu? It should be... So go to VOD, go back to VOD.ninja, and then add your camera to OBS.
Add your camera to OBS,
Slightly
alright.
too loud, okay.
Then I put it to VTube Studio. And my audio is correct according to this. And then I'll put it to max resolution. and then I'll start. And now I'll send you the link.
I don't know what happened. Here, I'll just start all over. Rid of that.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. You like disappeared, and then when we tried to get your yeah, and for whatever reason, I guess, Burke, you're still doing okay.
I am eternal.
This is a hate crime against dinosaurs.
No, same thing. Share your screen on Discord. Let's see if what you're doing is correct.
All right.
Oh God.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, it's open and it's just fine.
All right, let me see. Okay. Yeah, you copied that. Yeah, Burke, do you see what's going on my stream?
I'm watching your stream right now. We still have
share your camera, share your screen. What is going on? Also, by the way, Titus, that audio sources, set that to nothing.
Whoops, sorry.
No audio. That was causing the echo. And it was good before. We had your model back briefly. And then it disappeared. Alright. Yeah, copy that green link again, just to make sure. Nope. No, not that link. The green link.
This link. Okay. Maybe that's why.
Paste. That was probably it. Oh God.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not very good with technology.
Paste that in chat. That's...
Hopefully this works.
Hey, there we go. There's our Titus.
Hey, am I back? Yeah.
Yeah, let's chroma key you out. We have to do this all over again. Oh God.
From the top with feelings.
You gotta set it to... Oh wait, never mind. I can figure this out, don't worry. Oh God, I'm literally green screening live. Yeah, make sure it's set to max resolution. I don't know if it's choppy just because of your connection.
Yeah, no, I set it to max resolution, no worries.
Okay, that's the best we're gonna do. Alright, there we go. Woo!
Yeah,
that was that was a tangent and a half. Okay, you're back to normal. Fingers crossed. What were we even talking about? At the beginning of that whole ordeal, we were talking about spoilers, Chozo, Ridley. We're talking about Ridley.
Yes, we were talking about Ridley. I was saying that I'm glad Ridley wasn't in the game, and you were saying you wish that Ridley was in the game.
I don't wish Ridley was in the game. It would have been nice to see him, because we haven't seen him. I guess we saw him in Samus Returns, but we haven't seen him in the lore. I don't know. I like Ridley. I like my space dragons.
Right.
Yeah. I guess is that it for bosses? Do we want to move on?
Yeah, I guess we could move on now, yeah.
All right. A controversial subject with Metroid Dread. Controversial inclusion. The Emmys. What did we think about them? Did we like or hate them? If you guys want, I can lead on this.
You are welcome to lead.
All right.
Go for it. It's your channel.
I like the Emmy as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of because they tried to do that in Metroid Fusion, and on a tiny, little Game Boy with a shitty processor, they're obviously not able to do that. That's all. Feels very scripted on the Game Boy, GBA. I feel like it was kind of squandered potential. I didn't like how they restricted it, like the whole Emmy zones. I get what they were doing. Certain areas of the map that you have to be super careful entering. They didn't treat it. The Emmys felt a little too scripted to me. I mentioned this once on stream, and now that I think about it, it wouldn't make for that good of a Metroid game, but it would make for an interesting idea, which is so basically when you enter a zone, that Emmy enters that part of the zone where you're in. Like, it's not a thing where the Emmy can just be on a completely different side of the map. Oh, sorry, my voice is cracking. On a completely different side of the map that you're on. Which felt very scripted. So, like, you'd enter this zone and the game would know you're there, and it would send the Emmy there. So the Emmy didn't feel like they had that good of an AI. I would have liked it if the Emmy could traverse the entire map and was hunting for you, but he wasn't always on top of you. You'd be on like one corner of the map, and he could be on the complete opposite end, doing his own thing, doing his programming. To me, that idea sounds a lot creepier, knowing that he's out there with his own AI and he's not restricted to these zones.
Like a classic Resident Evil 3 nemesis?
Kinda, but not constantly coming for you. Like, he's doing his own sweeps. Kind of like the Alien in Alien Isolation.
Right.
So, since the game has come out, I've constantly heard the excuse that one of the big reasons that Dread was constantly delayed, because originally Dread was supposed to be a DS game.
Yeah.
A Nintendo DS, so not the 3DS, like going that far back. And the reason that people think that it wasn't ported over was because the AI for the Emmys would have been too hard for the DS. I think you could have pulled this off with the DS hardware. That AI is so simplistic. If they had it,
literally is run at you.
Yeah, it's I think if they had incorporated like some top-notch AI in it and have it would have made for let's be honest, it would have made for a bad Metroid game either way. I think it wasn't a good fit for it.
It was a good fit for 3 Emmys. I would have accepted 3. 7, I mean, the 7th Emmy didn't even matter.
That's true. I forgot about that.
You just murked him.
That scene was
You're like,
hype,
oh
though.
no, I have to fight it.
No, I will say that scene was
hype.
amazing. It's like, shit, I have to do this counter. But
it was cathartic. It was so cathartic.
Where she just fucking destroys it. It's like, yes. But
I think they could have toned it down though.
I think yes. Do you know what else would have been cool if Emmys could? I'm kind of like spitballing right now. I think it would have been cool to have like, because that would mean like an upgrade is much more important. Like, you're able to now, go through vents because you have the morph ball. Now you can escape like an Emmy as they're approaching. I didn't like the idea that
to touch on.
I didn't like the idea that like the Emmys were constrained to these zones. If it felt like kind of like a haunted house at like a theme park or something, where you'd enter an area and coincidentally the Emmy's there waiting for you. It felt very artificial. I think if they left the Emmy, because like it was cool when you saw because you can kind of see the Emmy on your map. You're close enough to it. I think it'd be cool to see the Emmy on your map, like wherever you are. Like if you're in one corner of the map and you can see the Emmy is slowly making their way towards you, just part of their pathing, and like you have to kind of figure out a way to get around them. I think that would have been cool. Probably not good for a Metroid game. Those are my ultimate thoughts on it. Like, I get why they were implemented. They needed like a new gimmick because otherwise the Dread in Metroid Dread makes no sense.
Sounds cool.
But it sounds cool, but literally, what is Dread? But
what is anything?
That is kind of my thought. That's kind of my thoughts on the Emmys. Could have been cool, but kind of, I think, overused. I think you're right about that, Burke. Could have been used sparingly.
I think I said earlier already that I didn't care much for the Emmys, and my reasoning is that I understand what they were going for. They were trying to really up the factor that Metroid is always kind of played into of being like a horror, like it's scary. It's a horror element.
Like
and the idea of having something so powerful that even Samus can't stand up to it is an interesting thought. It's terrifying. I'll tell you what, I was terrified every time I heard that music start. But honestly,
I was terrified the first 2 times.
Yes.
After that, it got very tedious.
After the first few times, it's just like, okay, listen, I understand why you're here, but I just want you to get out of my way so I can continue through the game instead of having to because I don't know about you guys, I struggled to get around the Emmys So I would end up like just go in, die, go in, die, go in, die, and the window of escape is so tiny that like the instant you get caught, it's just like, well, here we go again, try again, and you just have, it takes like 5 or 6 attempts to get past them just to keep going, like in the game. It's like I just want to play the game, man. I just want to explore.
Two things. One, Titus, your model is breaking again. I think it is just your internet connection.
No,
You are breaking the fabric of reality.
You break, and then you get back to normal. Honestly, like I don't think there's much we can do. I think we're just gonna leave it as is, because you're back to normal now. Second, oh god, what was I even saying? It was about the Emmys. Bro, I was gonna say something, then you broke.
It was like a road bump. What Titus was saying, like.
Yeah.
To get through the flow of it, it broke it up in a very.
I noticed my strategy, and it was kind of annoying. Where I'm not really good with map navigation. Like I constantly need to pull up the map. So that's all I would do. Like I would run through that area, and I'd pull up the map, be like, all right, I gotta get to here and here. I gotta make this fast. Oh, here's an Emmy, cloak, hide for 10 seconds. Those areas they were just road bumps. Like there wasn't any like strategy to them. I don't know how to describe it. Like they were very monotonous, more monotonous than like it should have been. Because it could have been a cool horror set piece, but it really wasn't. They also didn't give enough stealth options for Samus. Like the fact that you couldn't just move, like you couldn't just like move slowly, which I don't understand why they didn't do. Like you have an analog stick, you have analog movement, you can easily do that. I don't know.
What bugged me and piggybacking off that was the lack of distractions.
Yes.
Because like one of my favorite things I could have thought of was like, well, why don't I just have a time delayed morph bomb, go off, run somewhere else, let it come there, and like juke around it during that time while I'm cloaked.
Right, that would have been smart.
When I saw those mines, I thought that's what they were gonna do with them eventually. Like,
no, they're just there to screw you.
I could set this off and then run to this other side of the map, and the Emmy will move to there. Nope, doesn't happen. Yeah, there should have been. It feels like they didn't go too far enough into it, because they were worried that if they did, it would no longer feel like a Metroid game. But the way they kind of like they kind of half-assed it. That was also to the game's detriment as well. Like they either should have just not been in there, or if they were, they should have gone all the way and made it really unique.
That's a perfect summarization of my feelings. Is because as someone who I try to make games from here and there, and I'm like this idea is not very well implemented, or the way it tried to gradually up the stakes between each Emmy. Because the first one is if it just caught you, okay. The second one could use the morph ball, and then had the laser size, and then you had the ice beam eventually, and you're like, all right, you can put all these new features on it, but that doesn't make it scarier after a while. What made me scared, at least my favorite moment with the Emmys, was when you had to go into the underwater section without the gravity suit for the first time.
Yeah, it was very slow.
And you were like, I hope to God there's something I can grapple beam or something
to
Bert, get me out of it.
Can I be honest with you? I didn't know any of the Emmys had any upgrade. I knew that they gave you upgrades. I didn't know they behaved differently. As far as I remember, they all acted the same.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There wasn't.
Yeah.
They tried to gradually up this difficulty, because like when the speed booster one showed up, that was the first time and the only time with the Emmys.
I guess.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I think Titus nailed it. Would have been better with just three. Like what you have this very easy one, then you have a slightly harder one, and then you have the rogue, the one that can fucking see you through walls.
And just say, I'm coming to you. I'm coming, and there's nothing you can stop. I'm putting bees in your mailbox. This isn't a discussion.
Yeah, I think it was a great idea. It wasn't even a totally badly implemented one. It just didn't completely work the way I'm sure they intended it to, and it's a shame. But I mean, it's a small complaint against an otherwise good game. So
it's just weird because, like as you said, I don't know how often you guys got lost in the game.
Oh yeah,
a little bit.
We're gonna talk about that.
Where I couldn't figure out what to do, so I was like, okay, I know I can get out of this area if I go through here. And I forgot to put a little marker that's like, I don't have the upgrade to get through that door yet.
I
But
was
I
good
was
with.
looking at the map.
I did that
and
with.
I was like,
I did that with markers. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I was a try hard. Like, I'm gonna do this in one setting because I did do Metroid Dread in one setting for that 6-hour run,
hmm
and I was so exhausted by the end of it. But my point is, I was like, I'm gonna do this, try hard, all this bull, and I went through an Emmy zone unnecessarily. And it's funny you say it's scripted because I feel the Emmy is random as hell.
I agree. Actually,
It's
I think
scripted.
it is really random.
I should say it's scripted in the sense that you have that big Emmy zone, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are
and
now having the no fun zone.
when you enter that zone, the Emmy is always in the area that you are. Like it's
Oh
not.
my god.
There's
I've never had
It's
that.
never. It's
I've
never
had that
really.
1 out of 3 times.
It's never the point where you enter it and the Emmy's just on the complete different side of the Emmy zone. It's always there, and I'm pretty sure that's.
And it
Because
always
obviously-
detects you every time.
Well, not always a taxi, but it's near you. It's never more than one room away. I'm pretty sure that is actually part of its design.
Yeah.
Because obviously they don't want players to just be able to cheese through an area without an Emmy being nearby, but it ruins the scariness of the Emmy because the Emmy doesn't feel like the Emmy doesn't have its own agency at that point. At least that's how I felt.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point because I've had some times where I've ran through an area when I got lost, where like I would you can't moonfall like you do in Super Metroid, but basically I would just do like a big fall. You know, in some of the more vertical sections, I just do a straight jump, and then the enemy would be like, "I'm at the bottom of this pit," and then other times I wouldn't
Yeah,
run into it
I
for
had
like
that.
30 seconds.
I was always nervous about walking through doors.
Yeah.
It's like half the time it's like, oh, I just walked into an Emmy. Also, that was pretty freaky, knowing that Emmys can just open doors at will. Like, it's not all of a sudden like the idea of just when you leave a room, none of those enemies can hurt you. But
No, it follows you. It follows you.
I think Emmy is what, like, if Samus Returns, the parry system was kind of this not great idea at first. The Emmys is in that stage for Samus Returns. Like, this is the baby steps. If they went back and tried to do it again, I think it could be a great concept. It's
Which
just
is-
right now.
which is
it felt
funny
more,
because
more
I feel
7 tech demos. It felt like
It's-
7 tech demos.
it's funny because I feel the same way about the what were they called? The SAX in
Yeah,
Metroid Fusion.
I call them the sacks.
That's kind of what the Emmys were supposed to be, and even then they're still like not fully implemented that well. But I don't know.
There's also that.
I honestly
Fine
think they needed a reason to call it Dread. They needed a reason to make it kind of a bit of a horror game because it's kind of, but not really a horror game. It's just it's super intense. I would say not necessarily scary.
Yeah.
It's super stressful, and also I think Nintendo just wanted like a cool new gimmick to make it because otherwise,
dealing with them.
because like honestly, in thinking back about this, the worst part about Samus Returns is that it is just like kind of generic. Like there's nothing. It's just a remake of Metroid 2, but that has parrying,
I was
which
about to
people
say,
didn't like.
I got some groundbreaking news. The
Oh.
original GBA Samus Metroid, not that good. I recently replayed it on my Game Boy, and I'm like, this is actually
It's rough.
miserable.
Which
It's
one?
rough.
This is
The-
miserable.
like the NES Metroid
No,
1.
Game Boy.
Yeah, the Metroid 2 before it
Oh,
got remade.
Metroid 2. Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
one that
It's rough.
Samus Returns is based off.
Yeah.
It's not a fun game. I've played it. It is a miserable slog.
Hmm.
And
I've heard-
I enjoyed it, but like half the time it's a miserable slog, and I felt like somehow they made some of the worst design choices worse in that game. But
I
my
know
point is-
one thing. I've seen gameplay of that. First off, I think the camera's way too zoomed in because it's a Game Boy because I can't render that much stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard plenty of snarky video YouTube essayists say that it's way superior to all the remakes. So it's kind of funny hearing it from you guys that Metroid 2 is not necessarily that good.
Just because something's old don't mean it good.
Look, I came back to it 3 months ago when I had a little spare time, and I found my Game Boy Color, green by the way.
Oh, you didn't even emulate it. You played it on actual
I have
hardware.
the physical copy. Yes.
Nice.
Wow. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Embarrassing. You know what, my man? Tell that to the garage sale.
Ooh.
I'll say this as somebody who is a defender of the quality of the ancient friggin' Pokemon Red and Blue, as glitchy and buggy as they are. Even I can't really defend the original Metroid on Game Boy, like the Metroid 2. It just doesn't really work with the Metroid formula. It's aged poorly.
I haven't played it, not the original, so I wouldn't know.
You can't even. So a lot of the enemies in that game. I know we're on a tangent, but
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, that's the whole point.
the thing was what makes the 360 aiming was great was bosses in Metroid 2 on the GBA had either weak spots in a dead center spot, but most of them you had to come from underneath. So the
Ooh.
whole gimmick was just to find a place to hide under, or like get it stuck where it goes slightly off camera, just to keep spam shooting it in this one area. Otherwise, you couldn't hurt it.
That's amazing.
So you had to out cheese the cheeser, basically. Either you got cheesed or they got cheesed. And I do love games where that's like a component. But if you have to play the game that ruthlessly cheesy the whole time, even someone who's lactose intolerant is eventually going, who isn't lactose intolerant, is going to die from this much cheese, dude. That's just too much.
I like cheese.
I love cheese too, but I'm just saying, like, that was dangerous levels of cheese.
But
Yeah.
Burke, you befriend a baby Metroid.
The baby.
The baby.
Oh God.
It sounds like a cult every time we say that. You.
Well, do you remember that Red Letter Media
It
skit
does.
when they were making fun of the Star Wars? When they were making fun of Star Wars podcast, where one guy just said "very cool."
Very cool.
Very
cool.
cool.
You're
Very
gonna-
cool.
You're
Okay,
gonna. Oh,
guys,
never
you gotta
mind.
get on
Yeah.
this too.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
That's
Very
where the
cool.
Cool. Very. And then they just
Very
started
cool.
chanting it, and I was like, "Oh yeah."
God, that meme they did with the don't question, just consume product.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say yeah. Just get excited for new product and consume.
I think that's like single-handedly destroyed like so many Twitter arguments. Like see that image everywhere.
It's crazy. They just summed up the modern state of Pokemon like that. Anyway,
Oh, why would you go there?
We can have this discussion another day.
look,
We
it's
can
it's
have-
okay. Every unpopular opinion I'm airing, people are gonna come at me for it, not you. It's my opinions. It's not my friends here. It is not their opinions. It is mine. They do not
I
take
mean,
responsibility for what I say.
I mean, Titus, I can kind of guess your opinions. And I fully agree with you. Let's be real.
Thanks.
But we're not here to talk about.
We're not here to talk about Pokemon.
But it's Pokemon, but it's Breath of the Wild.
So looping it back, let's get back to I think we're done with Emmys.
All right.
yeah.
So we're done with Emmys. You touched upon it a little bit. Level design.
Mm.
Did we enjoy it? Did we find it frustrating?
I honestly don't
think?
feel like there's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off at the end there. I honestly don't think there's a ton to talk about. I think Burke touched on it really early in this call when he was saying that like it just felt like kind of generic, like it was kind of like a lot of the levels were kind of generic, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, they're obviously different. Like I can tell the difference between this is
and
the
you
fire
may be-
area.
You may be trailing into like aesthetics and visuals, and we'll get more into that later. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. By level design, I mean mostly like, I guess I'll lead on this. So level design, I appreciated how open they were to like giving players just this big complicated map that had tons of secrets. I wasn't necessarily a fan of how often you'd enter an area and not be able to get back to a previous part of that map.
That did annoy me, yeah.
That was my basic complaint.
There was a lot of that, like to the point where you'd go like near the end. I remember, because I guess at some point you're like running through, you're not quite opening enough door. Like there's some doors that you have to open to be able to backtrack through, and like it'll lock off an entire part of the map, and so you have to go through other different areas. So like when you access the teleporter to like get this weird like roundabout way to get to the opposite side of the map. It's so bizarre.
Sometimes to open up a shortcut, you'd have to just go completely around to the other side just to open it up.
Exactly.
To touch on that note, where like I've opened this door and now I can't come back. The biggest slap to my face, at least for when I was like, I want to actually explore the game a little bit on my first playthrough. I was like, all right, I got the Varia suit. There were so many places I can go to heat. And you escape that factory, you go to the teleporter, and rubble's immediately blocking your pathway to go out to the area you could go explore.
I remember that. That pissed me off.
Like that first
That was
area
such
too.
a
Like
slap to the face
yeah,
to me. I was like,
there's a
1-800.
lot. It's funny because you brought up one example. Like there's so many examples of that. Like, and I think that's why a lot of people's first playtimes who aren't 100%ing it are very short because like they're not bothering to like make that journey back, you know, to the starting area to backtrack and unlock stuff.
I accidentally walked into the final boss. I thought it was another area to go to, like, because I
I did
was just
too.
such a go with the
I did
flow
too.
at
Yeah,
that point.
I did too. I'm like, oh, this is the final cutscene. It's like, all right, I gotta stop this and go explore some more.
I kind of saw that there weren't like a ton of enemies, or like didn't seem like there were any like collectibles around, and I'm like, probably the final boss. I'm gonna just go back and backtrack for 2 hours. I'll be back later.
So-
The world can wait.
I got a question for y'all. Since we are in level design, did anyone else feel like this was the most linear a Metroid game could get without going to fusion level of like, you need to go to place here?
Yes, it
No.
was a step down from fusion. As much as I like fusion, it was a step down from how handily fusion could be with its direction giving, but it wasn't obviously it wasn't bad in the other way, where it's like the original Metroid, where you just didn't know what the heck you're doing.
Where do I go? What do
Yeah.
I do?
I didn't mind the level of direction giving. This, like, Adam gives you a decent amount of hints to where to go, but he doesn't outright say it sometimes. It's just strongly
Yes.
inferred. It's anyone who's paying at least a little bit of attention can figure it out. There was only one point where I got lost for a little bit, but other than that, like, I could infer where I needed to go without being directly told.
The only time I got lost was when I got the tri-shot, the spacer, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Because I shot the first door. I'm like, oh, cool. I put it to this factory level. All right, I'm leaving it. Well, that's kind of cool. I hate this place anyway. I hate that factory level. I really do.
I don't even. What area is that specifically?
It's the one
I'm
where
trying
you have to
remember.
deal with the Beyblades.
Oh, I hated that. Yep,
Beyblade.
Is that the one that's also the one that's partially underwater? Which one is that?
It's connected to that one, I think.
Yeah, okay.
The water
It's where
level
you-
is my favorite.
So it's the first time you
The,
really go on the trip. Hold on. I gotta
Yeah.
deal with something. Talk for a second.
No, go ahead.
The jungle area was my favorite. Like that felt like truly a and I'll talk more about that when we get to the art and visual style. Yeah, it was. I noticed for me, getting lost wasn't necessarily not knowing where to go. It was remembering a door that I had to unlock, but for whatever reason, it was like blocked off, and I had to make this roundabout trek to get to it. Also, Burke's like freaking out. I don't know how you felt about it, Titus.
I don't really have much else to say. I kind of just gave my 2 cents on it.
Mm-hmm. It.
All right, I'm back. Sorry.
All right. To answer your question, you asked us if it was linear. I don't think it didn't feel too linear to me. Maybe that's just I'm not a big I haven't played a lot of Metroidvania games. I like the genre, but I'm not an expert in it. And I love Prime. Like Prime felt like it had
Prime is the perfect balance.
Yes,
It
specifically,
lets you
and
explore.
I know a lot of people nag on it, the hint system in Prime, but that kind of helped in knowing like, all right, I need to be here. I need to be here, but I can kind of explore on the side. I don't know. I guess with Prime too, it never like fully blocked you off. Like you'd enter an area and it wouldn't just like lock you out. You'd be able to backtrack and explore the areas that you missed. I don't know. It didn't feel too linear to me. Like this was.
I actually loved it because like every time you had a power up, the game was going to conveniently send you to an area where it would be usable very quickly, and I thought that was great.
Mhm.
Some people don't think that because, like, speaking of getting the infinite jump, it sends you back
Yep.
to a territory, and you're like, well, I can't go any other route, so I guess and it only lets me go here to this water area. Or up there, and there's like this weird little alcove. I guess I can try for it. Like that was one of my first times. Besides getting lost after the spacer, that was the second time I got close to being lost for like a minute and a half. Where I'm like, oh, I obviously can't go that way. And I'm like, wait, I have infinite jump and it's water. You can do that.
Mm.
But like, I really liked every time you got a power up, your brain immediately would go like, "Oh yeah, there was totally this area like not even 5-10 minutes ago. I can go back and check out."
Also, there's a weird I don't know how to describe this, like I'm trying to a weird illusion that happens where you start noticing, like, it feels like you're passing by like dozens of locked doors for this one specific thing that you don't have. But then when you get it, you realize it's only like a couple. Like, did that ever happen to you guys?
The missile storm doors?
Or for me, it was the triple shot. Like, I thought I was going by so many of those in that one Emmy zone, and then by the time I got it, it's like there's only a couple.
Well, the crazy thing is, you say that, but all doors designed after the Spazer, if they're locked, they need the power shot, all have that triple line.
Yeah.
So that's why it feels like it. It's just because in the area where you needed it when you first get it, you're like, oh man, that seems like everywhere, and you've seen them before, but it's just that it becomes commonplace later to deal with.
Yeah.
It is a weird psychological feeling.
It was a psychological thing where it's like, or like if I backtrack to that area, all of a sudden it's like I don't know. I always felt that was like a funny, like my brain was always tricking me into thinking that. I don't know.
I will admit, I was slightly disappointed when the green shielded doors weren't super missile doors from Super Metroid. I admit I was slightly disappointed, but it wasn't it's not a major gripe. It was just more of a wait, what? And then then if I see a purple door, that must be a wave beam door. Like, my brain made the auto correction. It's a mild complaint.
Why couldn't they have changed it to a different color? Like, why'd they have to? Wasn't there? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Super Metroid had those really cool super missile doors, and I loved it because
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
When you shoot those doors, it shakes the whole room, and you're like, oh yeah, this must be a cool room.
Oh yeah,
and then in this game, it's like, you just went to the storage shed. I'm like, come on, man.
I will say, I felt kind of like a badass when I found upgrade parts for the super bomb that I didn't even have yet.
Yes.
So it was like, it was in my inventory. It's like, we don't know what this is.
That weirded me out because I was like, this is clearly the power bomb.
Yeah.
Why do I have access to this?
Yeah.
Why can I not use it now?
That is a little weird. Like, they couldn't have just made it so that when you are meant, quote unquote, to get it, they couldn't have just made it like another expansion, like instead of like giving it to you all then.
Yeah, or rather, just why would you put two? I found two organically on my first playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So how many super bomb, or what are they called? This
power bombs.
The power bombs. Yeah,
They're
how many
like
did you
20,
have?
I think.
How many did you have by the final boss?
Me?
Yeah.
I had 4.
Okay, I had 6. I found like 3. How many? I think it gives you 3 when you start off, right?
Yeah.
So I literally found 3 like before I actually had the power bomb, and that was kind of funny.
I believe there's 20 something in the game.
Yeah, there's a bunch. I saw someone play the final boss, and they had like 300 missiles and like 20 power bombs.
Yeah.
It's like, dude,
Get it out.
I wish I could level to that. I didn't like how some of the energy tanks were just energy tank parts.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't like that because it gave you this
like a slap in the face.
It gave you it gave you a fake dopamine high of like, oh, I did it, but then you're constantly like, oh, is that just a part? But
dude, I love heart pieces.
Yeah. Oh god.
I honestly thought they were going to be like reserve tanks. I mean, it's not really a utilized thing. Mostly Super Metroid did it, but you could get 4 E-tanks worth of reserve tanks in the old game.
Mm-hmm.
So if you died, you basically could take a couple extra hits if you were doing good. The extra energy would be stored over. I thought it was going to be like that system, which would have been dope considering like you get hit 3 times by some of the bosses and you're like, haha, goodbye.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was hoping it was a reserve tank or something like that.
I felt like they just were trying to put in more things to collect when it could have been less.
I also think it was to stagnate the level up system, but still make it feel like a sense of progress.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want people to just grab like, because at that point you'd have like 16 energy tanks.
Yeah, exactly.
By the time you get to the final boss, it's like, no, let's space those out, make them 4.
I do think the difficulty curve would have gone dramatically down if those were energy tanks.
Oh god, yeah. The final
Unless
boss
you're
who can
really
just kill
bad.
Yeah, I'm shocked at like it is a hard game. Like I don't think we've stressed that enough. Like it
It
is
was
a
a difficult
properly
game.
and it's shocking to me in a good way that
Yeah.
it is reaching the mainstream. Like we can have a game that is successful that is hard.
I also think Nintendo with Metroid, and I also think it goes back to Metro Studios as well. They understand that Metroid was kind of a niche thing to begin with, and that
Yes.
the people who do play it don't want their hands being completely held, and they
Um
don't. I mean, this is just what I'm projecting because, like, that's what I felt in this game, where every part was like, especially those later speed booster puzzles. When I did the 100% route, was just like,
that was just for the speedrunners, honestly, or like for
yeah,
the
it was like,
completionists.
did someone like look at Super Metroid speedrunners and Metroid Fusion runners and like watch how we did things? Because I felt like an AI observed as like, here's a cool, fun track that we could do based on these movement patterns.
It
Like
just
it was
felt
just...
nice to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. That was the final thought.
It just felt nice compared to a lot of other Nintendo franchises where it's like, oh, you haven't made it past this level in one or two goes. Have this golden mushroom so you make it through for free. Oh, you beat your rival in a match. Here's 27 revives and 5 full restores. It's none of that. None of that. The game does not hand you victories. You have to earn them. You have to work hard to get those victories, and when you get them, damn, it feels good.
I will say it feels very refreshing as weird as this sounds, it feels very refreshing to be like, I think I'm gonna go online and look up a guide for this. Like, what's the proper way to beat this? Like, I had this experience. I was playing Metro Exodus,
Yeah.
and it's like,
That's a fun game too.
oh, it's an amazing game. But it's such a novel thing because like obviously as a kid that's all you could do. And for the longest time it felt like, because obviously I think we can all agree games are becoming a little too streamlined, a little too easy.
Yeah.
A little too push the stick forward and press A bunch of times, go through a bunch of
That's
quick
in my
time
Hollow
events.
Knight run.
Yeah, games have become a little bit more easier for the modern.
Because I think there is this misconception, and I've said this before, and this is going to be the big takeaway of my impressions of Dread. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I am a big fan of what it represents, which is this game kind of proves that not only can you make a mainstream, very difficult game, but it will sell copies. Like this is like it's already broken records like in Japan alone. Like I don't know, it's going to be a while before we see the actual like US sales and global sales, but
We still got
imagining-
Christmas rolling around.
I know. I'm imagining like this is probably going to be a big deal.
It was weird to me because I came back from my 3 weeks from away from society, and I was like, I'm gonna buy Metroid Dread, and I went to my local store, and they were like, there were none on the shelves, and I was
Really?
like, hey,
Wow.
Ooh,
hey,
that's good news for them.
is this a thing still? And they're like, oh, we have like one more behind the counter in case someone asked for it.
Nice.
But
That's
I
awesome.
got it, and I was like, you guys are awesome, thank you. But
Yeah,
it
actually, now
felt
that
really refreshing to go into a store that I normally
to be
don't
like-
go into for a game, and it's just like, yeah, they've been selling like crazy at like a local store.
Mm-hmm.
Especially a Metroid game. That's the big
Yeah,
distinction.
yeah. Yeah, I remember when I went to. I got it at. Am I allowed to say the store I bought it at? I don't know.
Say
I mean,
it.
that's up to your discretion. I just always keep my stuff vague.
Yeah, I went to a retail electronics store, and
You said the
I
first syllable, so I know what it is.
Uh,
But
I bought a game. I bought Metroid Dread there, and yeah, they only had a couple of copies left on the shelves, and I was like, wow, that's actually kind of crazy. Good for Metroid.
especially for a store that sized.
Yeah.
But for me, I downloaded it digitally, obviously. But to me, the big thing is, and we were talking about it like a few minutes ago, but how like games are becoming more easy. And the only reason that's happening is because I think developers are a little too worried of making a super, not even niche, but like a game that only appeals to a certain community or a certain type of player. Because obviously you lose all the, you lose. And I wouldn't even use inaccessible, because that word gets thrown around by, let's be real, by a lot of hack game journalists.
Sorry,
Accessibility
I don't
is-
have mobile
accessibility-
I made big finger quotations.
Accessibility is to me, I just interpret that as like being able to pick up a game, but actually being able to master it. Like anybody should be able to do that. It's just a skill, and I'm so glad that Metroid Dread has that such a high skill ceiling. Like, this is a game people are going to be trying to master for years. Like, like 20 years from now, people are still going to be like trying to come up with exploits for this game. Like, I genuinely think that.
Touching base on that, after I beat my 6-hour run, I was like, all right, I've been away for a while. I know the game's been out for like 2 weeks. Someone has to have a speed run of this already. And like the one I saw when it was around was like 1 hour and 28 minutes.
Wow.
For the speed run, and I'm like, God bless this game. God bless it. Like,
and it's sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. It's hype.
Yeah. And just that's the ultimate thing, is like, it's good that this game is popular. That, like, I hope this is a wake-up call to a lot of developers and publishers that you don't need to like water down your gameplay. You don't have to make your game super easy. You don't have to add like quick time events and all this stuff. Like, you can just let it be hard, because players will still buy it.
Mercury should pat themselves on the back for making a solid experience.
I think they should,
like, especially after Samus Returns, which didn't have great sales numbers.
No.
Like, I think they deserve a pat on the back for, like, I heard the development, it was development hell over there, but for everyone who worked on it, like, thank you for your blood, tears, and probably your sanity. Because
I'm starting to wonder, and this is kind of going off topic. This is going into like Dread's actual development hell.
The real Dread.
I do wonder like how much of that original game is in the current game. Because the cynical side of me is thinking like, this is probably just a brand new game that they kind of slapped the Dread name on. It's a good game, but it's probably not the original Dread game that was for the DS.
I'm pretty sure they probably just took the story. If someone made something that was workable,
maybe.
You listen. I've worked with a lot of things, and like, if there's previous materials that you can work with, you use it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. If it
it's
works.
funny. It's funny that you talk about story, because I think we're gonna get into that. That's a good segue. But I don't think the story was necessarily. If the story was the same as it would have been, as a sequel to Fusion, it wouldn't have had the Chozo reveal, and that Chozo reveal was teased in Samus Returns. I kind of wonder if Samus Returns was just Mercury's team trying to iron out like an engine or a gameplay mechanic, or the general Metroid style.
Yeah.
And then that kind of, after that, they proved that we can do this, we can make this. Then they were given the Dread project. So I don't necessarily think this, because otherwise, like, if this game's story, if it had come out like right after Fusion, this would have been a really weird follow up. And we're gonna talk about story.
Finally, this is what I'm excited for.
What did we think about the plot? Was it interesting? Did some of us tune it out? I'm a little guilty of that. And just kind of like
the 10-minute exposition, man. Yes.
plot reveals, twists, spoilers, characters, whatever, stuff we liked, stuff we disliked. I'll let one of you lead on this.
You seem pumped. To go for it.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I find it weird because I'm a casual fan of Metroid, so I wasn't super invested in the story. But like this story, the Vince McMahon meme of the wrestling guy where he's like, oh, and he like slowly gets more excited. That was just me every time there was a cutscene in this game. It just, I live for the story and characters writing. And it was just so, I loved everything about it. I thought Samus I can't speak. She displayed so many deep expressions just from like how her body movement went, and despite only have 3 lines of dialogue. And when she spoke, it was powerful.
Dude, I got goosebumps when I heard it.
Oh, it hit different, man. It hit different. I thought
I wasn't really... To me, it wasn't really that. Like, when she spoke, it was kind of like, oh, okay. Like, and they got, I will say that they got a clever way around it too. Like her speaking in Chozo. Yeah, it's like, oh, that's, and it's like, even if like from a story writing perspective, it's like, ooh, that's you guys being afraid of pulling another M.
Yeah. No, I
but-
thought it felt more appropriate actually in the grand scheme of things.
She's
Yeah,
talking to a Chozo. She doesn't need to
She's
speak English.
connecting to her culture that she thought was gone. For
Yeah,
so
I
long.
wasn't thinking about that. She is.
That's-
I guess she is more Chozo than she is like, because that's where she was raised.
At this
That's where
point,
her
she's
whole-
more Metroid than she is human.
She's like a weird mutt of like
I feel like
tons
that's
of
what-
DNA.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say my quick note was, I think that's the final note that Dread was supposed to from the original game. Was because
It's
in
fully
Fusion you
Transformer.
kill a Mother Metroid, you kill a Queen, so you became the ultimate Metroid, and that would
And so
be
that
the-
was the. Yeah. Okay.
felt that
I
was the
kind of see
tie.
that.
Yeah, I think it makes sense as a conclusion. Like, I think I had some complaints, which I'll get into, but I just thought, well, first of all, Ravenbeak. I've wanted to talk about Ravenbeak this whole time. Ravenbeak was such a cool antagonist. I mean, I know people love Ridley, and Ridley's great. It's cool he finally got in Smash, but like, like Metroid needs more likable characters that aren't, and since Other M is the only other game that really gave us any like
Oh,
real
God.
characters outside Prime, we need more characters. And Ravenbeak, I am fully on the Ravenbeak for Smash train now. Whenever in 77 years when the next Smash comes out, Ravenbeak, I want him on the ballot because he's such a compelling villain. Not necessarily like, I think him being Samus's like donor, like her father, quote unquote, that was kind of lame. I'll give him that. I thought it was a little hokey, but like him as like
Rest your eyes now, foolish
Yeah.
daughter.
I
Oh,
think.
him, but
Sorry, go ahead.
I just think him serving as a mirror to Samus, like if you really think about it, like he is a warrior of the Chozo. He has he's traveled to countless planets, and like he's an ultimate warrior beyond his people's usual means. He conquers the Metroids and the SAX, and yet he is the complete opposite of Samus. He is like her polar opposite in terms of like how she chooses to carry herself as an individual, and like her morality and like what she chooses to do with her power.
He is Samus with no sense of responsibility or morality.
Right. And
Um,
his boss fight is so good.
He's
fucking dope.
I don't necessarily think he's that amazing of a character. He's a fine, like, mustache twirling villain. I think him being her father was a little weird. They could have just left it. They could have left it metaphorical, like like have him be her mentor or something, like not literally her father. Like we get what they're trying to do. We get the theme that they're trying to do. What was I guess I thought like I appreciate how they didn't try to like go overboard with the story. Like it was very simple. It was very kind of not bare bones, but like it felt like Doom 2016 story, which is if you want to pay attention to the story, go right ahead. Otherwise you can ignore it if you want. Like that's why I mentioned before, like even going into the game knowing spoilers, it doesn't take away from the game because the story isn't all the game has, as opposed to something like Other M. Burke, you were about to say something?
Yeah, what I appreciated a lot about the story was it was more world building than anything.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
It's just a good world building game, and then we just kind of get this little vendetta of like, what even is Samus Aran? And that's fun. That's always what I spend to me. It's more of
Like she's a girl boss, honey. I'm sorry, go ahead.
When you're ready, I have a few things to just talk about and something to ask.
Go for it. I've been
right.
taken aback by that statement.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
First thing, was I the only one who was a little put off by the fact that Samus is I don't know if it was her suit or if it was like just because her ship had, well, I'm not talking about Adam, I'm talking about like there's like a robotic voice and it's literally just Apple Siri, like when you plug it, uploading data
through two fans.
No, not that guy. It's when you like the uploading data.
Uploading data.
And it's literally just Siri. I noticed that in the first
didn't mind
cutscene,
it.
and
I thought it was funny.
I will say that
And
that
then-
was like, uh-oh. Second thing,
Talking about the that voice, the one that sounds like a smoker had a stroke at the
Yeah.
same time, tapping into a old school DOS computer.
I actually do have a comment to make about that one once you make your second point.
second thing, and this is a question. How many of you saw the Adam twist?
I did not.
I did not, and I heard some people say that it was let up.
It got
was
obvious to me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So, some people say that it kind of led up to it. Like, I know some people. I saw somebody saying like he got more and more weird. I didn't really notice that. Like, I was looking back at the cutscenes, and he kind of just talks normally up until that very last. Like, he'll say stuff like, specifically, it's when he talked about Destiny, and that was like the second to last time you talk to him. I don't know. I think they could have done a little better transition at that, because the whole time, like, I think it's just like it comes out of the blue. Like, it's just a big twist for the sake of having a twist.
I was suspicious frame one. I was suspicious frame one because there's this great line at the beginning before you even go down to the planet. It's like, we can't communicate with you down there.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I don't remember
that. That was a line that stuck out to me of like, they say upload at a terminal. But when they lost contact with the people that ran the Emmys, whatever took out the Emmys control, who's to say they didn't take out the people who ran the comms? So, like, I was suspicious frame one. But that's only because of that little line. Otherwise, I didn't have a lot of indicators until, like, you have a 99% chance of not beating Ravenbeak. And I'm like,
I noticed that.
Adam, fuck off.
Which is kind of funny. Looking back, it's like, knowing Ravenbeak, I like to imagine Ravenbeak is like typing on like a text-to-speech keyboard, and it's like, you know what you're doing, dude. It's like, you try to fight Ravenbeak, he'll kick your ass. It's like me writing my own fan fiction.
He's got 37 confirmed kills.
I want to hear the Navy SEAL copy pasta with the Adam voice now.
What
the hell did you just say to me a little bit?
But yeah, I think that was actually the point I was going to make, and that's, I think it's actually kind of interesting, the twist, because in hindsight, the fact that maybe it's just because I haven't played the Prime games or M, so I wouldn't know this fact, but with the fact that, like, it's important that he always refers to her as Lady, and he stops at some point once she falls down, like, to indicate it's not him anymore. But that's the thing, though, right? Like, was it ever at a point after she landed? Like, was it ever Adam at any point? Like, did it ever, like,
no.
transition between? Because if it was a transition at some point, I never really felt it, unless it was just from the beginning.
It's from the beginning, from what I recall.
Burke, I think you're right that there's no connection under there. So the whole time it's Ravenbeak. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
That's why I was suspicious frame one. I was just like, how are we talking down here?
Like, I just assumed it was like a direct uplink, which is what they were talking about. So I just assumed, okay, it's a way to get around that. But
I mean,
in hindsight,
now that I'm thinking about it, it's literally a System Shock 2 or BioShock twist. The guy you think who's leading you through the ship or the city. Turns out they're the bad guy the whole time.
I just remember that so distinctly. And maybe it's because I also love BioShock and System Shock 2. It's funny, you mentioned those specific games. And I'm like, yeah, no, I've played these games, and like that just felt like an immediate red flag to me.
Right. Okay, speaking of Ravenbeak, I just wanted to say that during the fight, when he goes full one-winged angel, and then he just pulls out his wings, and then you blow one up, and he just rips the other one off.
Oh,
God, that was so cool.
I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I was scared. I was genuinely unnerved.
Can I just say, and I mentioned before how Samus makes a lot of hilarious faces in this game.
Rage face.
Like when she, specifically, like even at the beginning when she's like being attacked by Ravenbeak, she's like that wide-eyed thing. It's hilarious. But as silly as it was, I mean, the best moment obviously was when she just fucking rages at him. And like,
that was so sick.
She's like grabbing his face, and he's just screaming and trying to like throw her off of him, and the whole like the whole like facility is literally falling out of the sky. Also, like even you mentioned the music, like that to me, that was like the standout. Like listening to the music swell, and it was amazing. It's like, whoa, and it just felt so It felt
Yeah.
so good because that was like the turning point where you're like, oh, Samus is fully in control now. Like that's like the switch where it's like now you no longer feel like you're the weakest one here.
Yeah.
Samus is all of a sudden the most powerful. You now know why she's the most powerful bounty hunter, in the galaxy. I love that moment.
Ravenbeak sure got her to unlock those latent Metroid genes, but at what cost?
You know,
Is that all he was
maybe that's
doing?
his objective.
Is that all
Well, that was his.
training
I'm
was?
pretty sure that's why he made her think he was Adam the whole time, because he was trying to get her to. At least that was the assumption I had, because he was trying to get her to unlock her genes, and it took him almost killing her to do it. So didn't work out really well for you, dude.
But just to touch on it,
go
sorry,
ahead.
I wanted to just get this out of the way.
If I were
I
Ravenbeak,
love a good old
sorry,
Metroid escape part.
Yeah,
and so
I
you
noticed
get that music, you get the rage, and then you just get Big Beam, and I'm like, yes, yes.
I will say a couple things. First off, if I were Ravenbeak, the last thing I would do is I wouldn't actually put where her ship was landed. I would just make up a spot because you don't want her getting off planet. Second thing, what do you think about the fact that Ravenbeak got turned like by the X parasite, but they didn't actually make that into a boss? Like Samus just rips it apart.
I thought it was great.
I think that was beautiful.
Also, was that was Kraid, right?
Yeah, that was a Kraid body type with a Ravenbeak little mouth inside the big mouth.
That was so gross. It was like a Resident Evil monster, like split open.
I think it really emphasized the power Samus now possesses. So I thought it was and it made a great ending set piece. So I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah, like in terms of thematic theming, where it's like, oh no, he's X'd up, and you're like, what the fuck ever?
That would have been honestly, that kind of would have been a fun boss fight, but I understand why, because they needed to bring back the same gameplay mechanics that was used for the Emmys. They needed to do something to tie that in. I get why. I get from a game designer perspective.
It just felt good to shoot man in face with big energy beam at the end of the day. I can't simplify this enough.
Sometimes you just want to make things go boom with no struggle in between.
You've already earned it. You just went through that boss fight. You earned it.
Yeah, that boss fight was difficult. So
that what was that armor that she had? That was like
Metroid armor.
The Metroid armor.
No, that like final armor set that she had. That was
Metroid armor.
Is that what that is? Just literally Metroid armor?
So I guess this is my time to nerd out as someone who played Metroid 2 but not Samus Returns. A lot of the Metroid armor, like when they evolve out of the baby form, they start developing armor patches. Like
gotcha. Okay, so that's I didn't know that about that part about the lore.
That's what I'm saying. I get to flex a little bit of my nerdom here, but yeah, that's just naturally how Metroids get armor.
I didn't know that. I mean, I understood what it was, but
which is also what made it so fucking crazy that what's his name? Something Crow? The good
Quiet Robe.
When the X form of him, he managed to maintain his willpower long enough to help, and his species of Chozo was meant to help suppress Metroids, which is what allowed her to change back into the suit that would not drain the ship. Oh god, that was cool. That was
I didn't notice that.
That I loved.
Huh.
Quiet Robe was a really endearing character, and he wasn't even on screen for that long.
He died immediately. Yeah,
quick.
He literally died in his own.
You're like, we can't have talking in this game. We can't have talking that's not monologuing.
It was nice to just see a Chozo that was actually nice.
Yeah,
we haven't seen one of those. I guess we haven't. We haven't seen a Chozo in game before.
Not outside the manga.
Yeah.
I'm about to say, Super Metroid, a statue attacks you twice.
Mm-hmm.
Metroid Prime, you fight their ghosts that have been corrupted by Phazon. You're like,
oh god, now I'm thinking of the ghosts.
Yeah.
Good old Metroid Prime. But yeah, it's like you're always wandering through their ruins, like the extinct Chozo species. It's nice to see one.
Dude, Quiet Robe, if he had the time, would have totally offered you the equivalent of like sweet tea with honey. Like, this man would have just asked you to sit down for a spell and enjoy a nice evening with tea and discussion. That is the man Quiet Robe is to me, and I was so mad that he got done dirty.
Now, see,
literally died in his own cutscene.
I said earlier I had issues with the story, and this is actually what I wanted to bring up. My biggest complaint about the story, other than the stupid father thing, was I'm confused as what they were trying to do with Quiet Robe, because they killed him, then he
He's an
got possessed.
exposition machine.
Yeah, then he got killed. He got killed. Then he got turned into an X parasite, which I get. He then unfroze all the Emmys, which made them go after Samus again. So I thought, oh, okay, so now it's an evil Quiet Robe. She's gonna have to confront him again later and like take out the fake. But then at the end, he shows up and seemingly has enough self control, or like his like there's some latent essence of his soul, if that's is a thing even in Metroid lore or whatever, to like help her at the end. Or maybe it's the X, or was it the X parasites themselves who have gained consciousness and want to help her somehow?
knows? Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why, if whether it was Quiet Beak or the X parasites who were good at the end, who helped
weird.
her, then why did he unleash the Emmys earlier, which were objectively could have easily killed Samus? It doesn't make, the two don't make sense together.
Can I throw out? Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, you go
All
ahead,
right.
Matt.
Can I throw out an idea that may have made the story a little more cohesive? Because I felt the exact same way, Titus. It was weird because I didn't quite understand that, like, 'cause he turned bad, like he turned the enemies back on. It would have been cool if after that moment when the enemies are turned off, if Adam started to deceive you, like if he was like, these enemies are all deactivated, you don't have to worry about entering an enemy zone, like stuff like that would have been cool. Or like if they had saved what's his name again, something Robe, Quiet Robe.
Yeah.
If they had saved his, if they had, instead of killing him off, if they had like left him alive like throughout the game, so he'd kind of, have you guys played Portal 2?
Yeah.
There's a moment in Portal 2 where you think Wheatley's dead, but he's like hiding throughout the facility, and like you kind of reach areas and he's like trying to talk to you. Like that would have been kind of cool. And then by the end, then he dies. And like in his dying, as he's about to die, because Samus is now a Metroid, he can give essentially his DNA to her so that she can essentially wear off, because you mentioned it before, Burke, so she isn't draining the ship anymore. I don't know. They probably could have rewritten it better. I think it was just a thing, like they needed a way for him to like die, but also like, I don't
keep
know,
her powers in check at the end.
Yeah, yep.
I get what they were going for. It's just that little oversight made things kind of confusing if you're paying attention.
It was weird.
It made sense to me at the time, but I guess I'm also in such like monkey brain, go forward, accept whatever's coming at you. If they've had clear logic about it before, which was that Quiet Robe was a species that helped control Metroid powers. Okay, if he absorbs the X and it's there because Quiet Robe just seemed like a very cool dude, and maybe it just passed on, because X's, they just replicate everything but the original brain function of the character.
Right.
But, you know, I'm just going to guess it. He had Chozo Soul. I mean, you fight ghosts.
Yeah.
So my brain just made a bunch of deductions that my brain said, yeah, this makes sense to me. And the reason the Emmys were activated initially was because he knew to be quiet, to Ravenbeak, was that you would have to turn the Emmys back on. Because originally the objective was to escape Ravenbeak.
Right.
And then the only option now was to fight him.
Oh, so you're thinking, okay, I kind of get that.
That's my logic. And maybe I'm doing a lot of great writing for the writers that were just like, eh.
I think so, yeah.
Maybe I'm filling in the gaps for them.
You know what? Like, we're talking about Metroid Prime, the game where you fight ghosts, and then Metroid Prime 2, where an asteroid hits a planet and knocks it into another dimension. Like, Metroid isn't about story. Like, it's about characters and stuff, but it's like, the story is not the defining part about the game.
Yeah.
Be real. Because otherwise, if it is, you get Other M.
Oh, no.
I like how we've hinted at Other M like this, like, evil villain lurking in the shadows.
Well, listen,
God.
I have never been mad at a game. Even Metroid 2, I'm like, it's a bad game. It came out in Game Boy. What do you want from it? Like, I have that attitude. I will tell you it's a miserable game to play. Other M is just a game that makes me sad and angry. And You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between this is a game limited by its time and design versus they had many choices they could have made.
And they made all the wrong ones.
And if you had an original member of the team at the helm and you still cocked it up.
So, Sakamoto, I've talked about this before on stream, and this is, I don't want to stray into controversial territory, as hilarious as that sounds. I'm starting to wonder, because Other M, he's gone on record as to saying that if he were to change anything about Other M, he absolutely wouldn't. Like, when the game launched, he literally said, like, that was his vision. And that poor development team, what other games had they done? They had done like the Ninja Gaiden games, I think. Am I misremembering that? Yeah. He gave them like really weird instructions. Like, it was his idea to make it like playable with just a Wiimote on its side. Like, he wanted it to be like an NES game, which is why the controls in that game are god awful.
Right.
And he talked about, so there's an old interview of him after Super Metroid came out. So Burke, you might be interested to hear this. And the gist was that the stuff he liked about Super Metroid, the stuff that he seemed super animated about, was the cinematic like intro. Like, to him, he said that was his best work. And like, in fairness, like, that is even now, like, that's still a pretty cool intro.
I'm about to say that's a fair assessment of actually.
But I'm starting to wonder like whether or not that was kind of his whole vision. Like, he
wants to make a movie, not a game.
Is he maybe like a George Lucas, like someone who people like his game for different reasons than he likes it for? I don't know. I don't want to diss him, but I noticed like, I'm guessing Mercury Steam was he was probably a little more hands off for this game, for Dread. I don't know.
I think, I do like where Dread is going. I would love to see more games go this direction where Samus can be aggressive, and she can be angry. I love that. Yeah, it's like her no final
longer
the cold calculated machine.
Now she's pissed.
It's like, I like to imagine it's like all these twists and reveals, and Samus is like, I've had enough of this shit. I'm angry. Like, that's her final form.
I have been on this planet for 24 hours, and I just want to go home, have some Wendy's.
Or like, you think about the amount of shit that she's been through. She's like, she was infected. She had a living biological suit. She became a Metroid. She's literally a Metroid. She found out who her dad was. And it's like, all this shit is happening, and she's just like, she's angry. I kind of like that.
I actually have that as an MP3 file now, and I use it as my alarm clock right now to wake me up, because it's like, it gets me going. This is like, yeah, let's do this.
Make that your Twitch follower alert.
I'm thinking about making it maybe a $5 dono thing. Just,
it's funny.
We'll see what happens.
But yeah, I do find it funny how it's like, now they can call it Metroid without Metroids. although let's be honest, I do kind of hope those little Metroids come back. I want to see them.
I'm sure
they're probably going to be, they're going to make, I think Prime 4 is legitimately just going to be because the Prime series is between 1 and 2, right?
Super and, it's like, 1 and 2.
No, Super is after 2, because it's, by 2, the Metroids are almost extinct, but in Prime, like, they're just everywhere, which I do find kind of funny. But, so if Prime, I'm guessing Prime 4 will probably be before 2.
What if they pull something crazy and they're just like, Prime is after Dread, Prime 4 is after Dread, just
honestly, that'd be kind of dope. If this is all just a setup for Prime 4, I'm all for it. Probably not, but I
swear to God, if this is all a setup for Silex to appear, like, that'll be kind of lame. Like, do you remember all the like rumors, Burke? Like, Silex, he's gonna show up in Smash Bros, or he's gonna be the new villain. Oh, they've been teasing that guy for 15 years. He was in Prime Hunters as a side character that you could play as in the multiplayer. And in Prime 3, they made the mistake of teasing him at the end.
No, the crazy thing about Prime 3 was, like, the Hunters were in that universe. A lot of them get borked over by Dark Samus.
Is that...
At least that's how I remember it. I haven't played
some
it
of the
since it came out.
So, I'm trying to remember, because there's one Hunter first off, they're not the same bounty hunters. There's Metroid Prime Hunters has kind of its own characters. It's just funny. It's actually kind of the same thing happens where they're fighting this. Okay, I don't want to get into Prime Hunters. It's basically this almost like Cthulhu, Lovecraftian, interdimensional entity. Tricks them into trying to release him, and he takes over all the bounty hunters near the end. Like the bounty hunters all team up, but then they all get taken over, and obviously Samus has to stop. Whatever. Basically, the final boss has all their powers.
Yeah.
But none of those bounty hunters ever show up, and they do survive. Like they escape at the end of Prime Hunters.
I thought they transferred over, but I never played
No,
Hunters. Actually,
no.
That's the only real game I haven't played. Like
So-
I have no frame of reference of.
And you don't need to play it. But Silex, Silex is the one bounty hunter that is carried over, and they only tease his ship. There's kind of one that is very similar. There's like this purple alien who has ice powers.
Yeah, I was gonna say the ice boss was dope as shit.
But he has a different visual appearance. I don't think he's the same. But yeah, like that purple chick and then the steampunk looking robot, like those aren't carryovers at all. Those are completely different characters. Which is fun. Prime Hunters actually, for all of its problems, those bounty hunters are the best part about it. Like you have this, because they all have they're all different aliens and they all have different like motivations. One of them is just straight up a space pirate.
The cyborg space pirate. I remember him.
Yeah,
He had this detachable bottom.
He detaches himself and his legs become a turret. There's one of them's like a mad scientist who's gone rogue. One of them's like part of this alien collective hive mind. And Silex is kind of mysterious, and so they were trying to build him up as a villain. But then they just ran out of steam, and they didn't make a Metroid game for 7-8 years.
Womp womp.
But yeah. I wonder what they're gonna do for Prime 4. It's probably vaporware at this point, let's be real. Anyway, getting off topic. Kind of the second to last topic. We are getting close to the end. We've gone on for 2.5 hours. That was pretty impressive. But these last couple sections might take a lot of time. So I've teased this before. So let's talk about atmosphere, graphics, music, art style, aesthetics, kind of the surface level stuff. Ultimately just atmosphere and aesthetics. Like that's if it has to do with music or visuals, like what do you think of the art style? What do you think of the environment? Thoughts on music? And I'll let one of you take the lead on this.
Titus, you've been quiet for a hot minute. You want to lead?
I guess I can sum up my thoughts pretty because I feel like we've covered most of this in other segments.
We have.
I thought the overall the environments were kind of I felt like the first few were kind of samey. I like the lava area and the water area a lot. But other than that, they all kind of bled together. None of the music really stood out. The big notable
The big set
ones.
pieces.
Yeah.
The bombastic end was like the one standout.
Yeah. And also the Emmy music. I will give the Emmys one thing. If nothing else, the Emmy music, I remember it. I sure do remember it.
Panic. Yeah, I remember the panic of it.
Yeah. And you know what? It does its job well. I panicked every time I heard that music bump up. So you know what? Fair enough. That was good. The game looked great. The art style was good. It was a very clean game. Music could have used some work, and maybe some of the environments could have been distinguished a little. But my favorite was the water level, just because I don't know, the sight of an open ocean behind her, and the fact that it was horrifying.
That looked like kind of like Attack of the Clones or like Camino from Star Wars, where you have the big suspended facility and you go down into the water.
I just kept imagining some kind of horrific eldritch abomination crawling its way out in the back screen, and then it would itch its way forward towards you. Something I just kept expecting something crazy, but I don't know, just the knowledge that the Metroid lore is just a legitimate alien universe, and we know nothing of it relatively. So who God knows what could have been down in that ocean. That was terrifying. As someone who is afraid of the ocean, that was terrifying.
I should have done more with that. like just open ocean.
I
guess
am
it's hard to do in a 2D game. Sorry, I keep
Metroid
interrupting you, Bert.
Subnautica.
Yeah.
I'm a big diver actually. I love diving.
Ah.
And I've gone to like 100 feet under before. And I've loved deep sea dives. It's terrifying world.
That sounds terrifying.
So foreign and alien, and the pressure is on it. So like for me, when I got to that level, I was expecting, because like in an alien world, there can be things the size of old dinosaurs were. Like I was expecting something that could completely swallow you whole, and then that would be a sub level for a minute. I honestly expected or thought that was a possibility.
Right.
Like there'd be something so big you'd have to like shoot your way out of Jabu from Ocarina at a time.
Yeah, I crawled down there and half expected to see Cardin down there. If you don't know her, she's another prehistoric VTuber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have expected to see her down there. I don't know. I expected some kind of. I mean, the boss fight down there was cool.
Don't get me wrong. There was nothing wrong with that level. It's just like, I think what made Dread really good when it worked was when your imagination took the front seat of what you could dread.
So, because me and Burke, like, we played the Prime games, and that's kind of my frame of reference for what my particular, Metroid game is. And it's kind of the problem with Dread is, like, a lot of the levels do blend together, because the levels, it's a giant facility. Like, that's what it is. For me, like, playing Prime 1, even Prime 2, they're kind of both this same, like, you have this ancient temple, but, like, on an alien planet. So, like, you're going through these biomes, these different environments. Like, Vendrana Drifts. Like, it has this amazing... and then it's a snow level, too. And then you have the Chozo Ruins, which is a desert level. And it's these ancient temple ruins. And you have, like, Talon Overworld. And it's raining, and it's tons of foliage. I was replaying Prime 2, and you're in Torvis Bog, and it's like this swampy area where you go underwater briefly, and it's like that swamp water where it's like it's all green, and there's stuff floating in it, it's all like dense, and it's raining too. So much atmosphere in those games. And sadly, Dread really didn't have that. Like I mentioned before, like what was it? Gavorin? Gavarin is the area that had the foliage, like the green jungle and stuff.
The mushroom jumping part.
Yeah.
I really liked. That was my favorite style part.
That was like the closest kind of I felt to it being like, oh, this is a Metroid game. Like to me, a Metroid game, and that's why I never really look for a story in those games, because to me the story is Samus lands on a planet and she just explores. Like that is, to me, that's all I need. That's all I need. Like seeing all the weird alien creatures and mysterious stuff that lives there. Like that's all I need. And it was kind of a shame that this entire environment was mostly just made up of like facilities and stuff, like corridors and hallways and stuff. Like that first area, and that's kind of something I noticed that like when in the trailers and stuff, like when the game was being showed off, I was very kind of nervous. I didn't really like the art style. It was very brown and gray. It looked very murky. Like compare that to Metroid Fusion, which is all very colorful,
very bright.
Yes. Very alien, I guess. Like it looks like a different world. And so like Super Metroid gets that right as well. And Zero Mission too. And that's kind of what I wish there was more of. Wish there was more like, I guess, more natural environments. Wish it felt more like an alien planet.
Rather than like a zoo.
Yes. Otherwise,
even
like
Fusion, which was basically
it was literally
zoo.
Yeah, it literally was
a
just a space station.
Yeah,
but
the space station, but there was an atmosphere to it. The station itself had like this atmosphere to it. It was fun to explore.
And it changed a lot.
Yes, everything, they would raise the stakes. But yeah, like graphics were all right. I mean,
it's one of the best looking games on the Switch.
I wouldn't go that far. It's okay looking.
In my opinion.
There's a little bit of technical hiccups, I'd say. But I'm starting to wonder how early on, or how far down the pipeline the Switch was really. Because if you think about it, this might have just been a portable game had Nintendo not gone for the Switch. Because every 2D Metroid game since Super Metroid has been a portable game, and the 3D games are on the console. So I'm wondering if this would have been like for the 3DS, like if that was the original plan.
I don't know. That would have been a long time to wait to make.
That's me speculating, but it clearly, it's kind of like, I kind of feel the same way about Pokemon. Like, Pokemon is meant to be on a handheld, but now all of a sudden you have Nintendo combining their handheld and console games. So now you just have these console games that look like garbage because they're made by people who've only worked with handheld hardware. I don't know. That's probably just me looking way too much into it. I didn't think it looked amazing. It looked fine.
We could have a whole another one of these just for Pokemon, dude.
We could have a whole one of these for Pokemon Sword and Shield. We could have just one for that.
My one comment is the people who develop games from Nintendo and the people who put the money and say this is what we want from Nintendo are two entirely different people.
Definitely.
But yeah, like, I'm not saying the graphics were bad. They were serviceable.
I loved them personally. Maybe it's just because I haven't seen Samus look that good in years, so I might be riding that high still.
I thought
beautiful as the last time I saw her.
The day I lost you.
I kind of like this.
That's the way. That's the meme. That's the meme.
Some like aesthetic stuff. Like, this is just us kind of spitballing now, but I kind of like the suit, but it wasn't my favorite. Like, I
loved that fusion suit
because I'm streaming
the muscle fibers and all that.
Because I'm streaming through the Prime trilogy,
and
if we want to talk about suits, like, that is the game that has amazing looking Metroid suit, or not Metroid, various suits, and like, to me that is like playing those games in crisp HD. Like, that's such a nice looking suit. I kind of wish they brought that back, but
it's a nice looking game, dude. We can talk about how I feel about Prime next time, because like
the dark suit that it's made like by the Luminoth, so it has like that copper and red color to it. Oh, it's amazing. I wish there were more suit varieties. I was kind of disappointed, but that's the Metroid formula. You have the various suit, the gravity suit, and then some bullshit suit near the end that they then eventually get rid of. But yeah, it was kind of music too, like a lot of stuff that kind of I didn't really notice. Like, I didn't even remember the music except for near the end where it was like swelling, and it was awesome when Samus was screaming and attacking Ravenbeak. But yeah, that was kind of my thoughts on it. Burke, I don't think you went.
Yeah, I haven't. I was supposed to say, I think you guys have touched on the majority of what I can go over that isn't what my opinion was different that I stated earlier of, like, I loved the movement. I loved a lot of the actual, like, the atmosphere. Oh, here's actually something. Yeah, I said I loved that I could blaze through this game and be hyper aggressive, and like, that was really cool. But it did take away from like the wonderment of like, what is this room? Compared to, oh god, I just gotta fight through everything through this room.
Yeah, that'd be my chief complaint about it.
Yeah.
I kind of prefer when a Metroid game, like, I think Metroid games should kind of get that out of the way. Like, playing Prime 1 or even playing Super Metroid. You have that bombastic intro. You literally have the same intro, like, where something's about, Samus is in like a crashing lab or space station or ship.
Yeah.
She runs out, and then the game takes a step back. It's like, this is Metroid. You're super excited now. You're super jazzed for the game. We're going to slow things down. That's kind of also going back. That's why I really didn't like the Emmys. I like my Metroid to be like slow and methodical.
Emmys would have been fine if it was a couple moments of like, even a concentrated like 20-minute boss counter. That would have been fine if it was just a single instance, not, hey, you have to come back through here.
You know what would have been
have fun.
You want to know what actually would have been kind of fun?
What
is, so I mentioned before how if they had let like an Emmy just roam through a whole area instead of restricting it to a zone, what if that was a way to dissuade you from entering a new area? So instead of like hard locking you from entering this area, like, for example, like, here's a lava area, you need the Varia suit. Instead, it's, here's an Emmy, you know, you probably need to get the cloak, but if you're, you know, if you're hardcore enough, you can get through. There's nothing fully locking you from going through.
Yeah.
Like that would actually be kind of fun.
Hmm.
Touching on that, the game obviously has a lot of areas that they understood could be sequence breaked. At least Mercury Studios
Yes.
understood that. Given, like, I did the Morph Ball Bomb and it killed Kraid. It was fucking cool. But, like, I just want to see a game where it fully embraces that idea of, like, oh, you're not going to play the way we originally designed it? New path for you, buddy. That's just an additional thing, though.
Yeah.
Everything else is... I love this game. I really do. It's funny that you gave it a 9 out of 10. Because I give it like a solid 8.5 at best.
I'd probably give it an 8
I think it's
out
a
of
good
10.
direction. I think it's a great direction. It's a fun game. And it's even cooler that it's made for stuff that I really personally enjoy. But it's missing those touches.
It sounds like this is honestly a good segue. Like, we're getting to our final thoughts. So, like, concluding remarks, anything else we want to mention? Yeah, Burke, you can continue.
It's a great game. I give it an 8.5 overall. I loved that it was so, like, there's a lot of stuff that was tailored for people like me who like to go and break the game, who like to go do the crazy platforming on this really technical stuff, but it is missing the nuance of, like, a Metroid game. It is... I never was like, I saw an enemy for longer than 3 seconds to go, oh, what's that? Unless I couldn't counter it to death when I first saw the counter prompt come up. Because, like, I've played enough Resident Evil 6, a lot of the Resident Evil games, a lot of games with QTEs where if there's a big obvious tell, I'll find it within, like, the first to second hit.
Do you remember Resident Evil 4? Like, where you have to push the button prompts?
Yeah.
Oh.
So in RE6, they took that to the maximum level where they wouldn't show the prompt for the counter. Or it'd be, like, on for a single frame, but every move in that game could be countered if you knew the timing by watching the telegraphing.
That's hilarious.
I'll show it on stream at some point how busted RE6 is if you know most of the counters, because I can straight up get through most levels without shooting a single bullet just because of the counter system.
That sounds very broken.
It's insanely broken. It's amazingly broken, and it's really fun to play co-op.
RE6 is that the one where it turns into like an action movie?
You mean it becomes 7 movies?
The helicopter's like flying through the building.
Oh, yes, that is one.
Okay. Yes.
There are 4 campaigns. RE6. Well,
oh my god.
TLDR. RE6 was a bunch of developers like, well, RE5 didn't do well. What are we gonna do? Well, why don't we just do everything that's popular at the same time? No, that's oh, well, we're doing it anyway.
It's amazing. Game sounds amazing. I need to check it out.
It's amazing in all the wrong ways. That's how I'm gonna phrase it. If you like Uncharted, you play Jake's campaign. Did you like Gears of War, but you thought you always had too many bullets? You play Chris's campaign. You just want to play Resident Evil 4, but with a co-op buddy? You play Leon's campaign. Do you hate yourself? You play the secret campaign. It's even better on co-op, because the secret campaign wasn't designed for co-op mode, but they made a patch for it within the first week. So there's a second player that's just called Generic Agent, and he can't interact in any of the cutscenes, so he can just do whatever he wants in the corner, and it will have the same agency as though he helped you through every fight.
It's amazing.
You can just be there to grief or to help your teammate and be like, man, it looks like you're getting beat up. Have a tic-tac. That's how you heal your teammate. You hand them tablets. But yeah, RE6 is a mess. Unlike this game, which just needs refinement.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the idea. Is like, as far I think they were just trying to get this game like actually made. Honestly, like the stuff we're talking about, like they could refine this, and that. Like that's something you do for. That's for a game. That's for a game series that gets more than one release every 10 years. Like with Metroid, it's like we got to make sure that we got to worry with what we have instead of trying to overthink it.
And it's also surreal to think, like, indie games almost have the formula down better than the original creators because they've all been doing it for so long and actively thinking about it.
Well, yeah, that naturally happens.
Yeah. And that's my thought, sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Titus, do you have any final remarks?
I guess I've gushed plenty about the game and remarked my complaints that I had. I guess at the end of the day, I would just say,
Will I
uh,
support this?
I'd say, I'd say, I think it's great that such an important franchise for Nintendo historically is finally made its comeback. I think it was a wonderful return to form. I would highly encourage, in the like 1 in a billion chance that anyone with any power whatsoever sees this one day. Seriously, you did a good job. Please, for the love of God, make Metroid games more regularly. Maybe polish them a little bit more. But I mean, the game was a solid 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. No huge major complaints from me. It was a good time. One of the better games I've played this year overall. And yeah, I have nothing but respect for the people at Mercury Steam who made this happen. And and just congrats to them for such a good job. Well done. Now please give me a Kid Icarus game.
Kid Icarus Uprising 2.
Please! Oh please, oh please!
Yeah, I guess I'll give my final remarks. I've kind of said it before, but again, I'm not the biggest 2D Metroid fan. And for this game, I more so appreciate what it represents than exactly what it is and what it's trying, more specifically what it's trying to do. And I hope it has an influence. I hope like game developers learn from this. I specifically hope Nintendo learns from this. I do hope we get some more Metroid games. Hopefully not like to the crazy extent that they were like by the time Other M came out, because there was a point in Metroid's lifespan where there were like 4 Metroid games in development at the same time, which is hilarious to think about, especially compared to now.
Yeah.
Maybe don't go too overboard with that. You know, I have many thoughts about Nintendo as a company. Recently they do seem to be making pretty good decisions with their video games, like with Legend of Zelda, with Mario, with their big brands, which is kind of why I also have faith in Prime 4. As weird as that sounds, even though that game has been equally as long as in development hell as probably as long as this one. But just because this kind of gives me hope that like, oh, Nintendo know what they're doing. And yeah, it's good to have a game like this not just like exist, but also be popular and be mainstream. And I hope that just kind of sends a message to other developers, like you don't have to worry about, you know, not every Metroid game has to be Other M. Like you can make a good Metroid game that is proper Metroid, or at least feels like it.
A little different in my opinion, but
a little different, but like different enough to be unique. That's
every
why
game
it's
needs
different.
to be a Breath of the Wild or a big heavily narrative, story-driven game like a lot of Sony games. It can
wouldn't
just
say.
be.
Well, I mean, it's funny because Breath of the Wild, in and of itself, was I'm gonna throw up after saying this. A breath of fresh air.
Get him out of here! Get him out of here!
Of that pun, but
no, it's not.
like,
I made worse puns today. He's fine.
That's like again, it's kind of Nintendo focusing on, you know, like a gameplay formula over, you know, we want to make a game that has a super cinematic story and all these set pieces and stuff. It's like, no, let's kind of get down to basics. Let's focus on this first. And that's kind of why I hope Nintendo learns from this. I hope they're like, all right, there's an audience here. Let's maybe cultivate it back, get Metroid into the big leagues. It is interesting. It's interesting. It's interesting. I hope it is. I hope Nintendo doesn't just ignore Metroid again for like another 5 or 10 years. Because yeah, obviously, again, we've talked about it. Metroid really doesn't sell that well, and it's weird when you think of like Samus, and you think of like a staple of the industry, like an icon, but it really isn't the case. And Metroid's really a tiny little franchise that barely makes that much money compared to like indie games. Like there are indie games that make way more money than Metroid. So I don't know. I hope Nintendo gives the franchise some love, and I hope Metroid Prime 4 is actually released. God damn it! I've been
Here,
waiting
here.
5 years. But yeah, that's kind of my final remarks. I think it's a great game. Has some problems, but what it represents is probably more important than what it actually is. I think that's my final thoughts.
It's well said.
And yeah, we are coming up on. We're literally about to hit 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could keep a stream this long. I guess I proved myself right. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say unless you guys have other stuff to say as well. Like anything else you want to mention before we call it a night?
Make sure to follow Andy if you aren't already.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course,
Great.
man.
Thank you
for having.
putting this together for us.
Yeah,
Yes,
no
this was
problem.
a lot of fun.
This was. We got to do this again sometime. From the sounds of it, Burke, it's going to be about Metroid Prime.
Buddy, we can talk about a lot of things.
We can.
And I got time. and
Or
experience
Pokemon.
to talk about it.
Oh, don't get me started on Pokemon now.
I will ride back seat because I haven't played since Silver.
Titus, the next Pokemon game is going to be Breath of the Wild. What, are you not impressed?
Honestly, I'm more okay with that than the Sinnoh remakes, but that's a discussion for another day.
Oh, those Sinnoh remakes.
Gentlemen, it is getting a wee bit late. I think it is time.
Very
to
late for me,
adjourn.
but
Yeah.
yeah, before we go, you guys want to plug your Twitches, your Twitters? Go plug yourselves.
Yeah.
Go for it, Titus.
All right. Well, on Twitter, you can find me at twitter.com. That funny little / looking thing, Suarez_Titus. And on Twitch, you can find me under the same name, Titus. Or well, it's not the same name. It's Titus the Dinosaur over on Twitch. You could find me there. And I also have a YouTube channel where I linked in both those accounts where I upload VODs, and soon I'm gonna be uploading some originally made content
Ooh.
sooner than later. So that'll be fun. But yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
right,
I'm
Bert.
Wildberk. Yeah, you can find me at twitter.com, the Muddy Mank. There's a Muddy Manker. I haven't.
The
this
Muddy
tag is-
Manker. I had to link
the
it,
Muddy
yeah.
Manker. It's been a while since I've used it, honestly.
I
I'm
could
kinda
tell,
bringing it
yeah.
back. And I do at twitch.tv wild_Burke. And I haven't streamed for a while right now just because life's been in the way, but this has been really invigorating for me to get back into doing this. And I'll be making content for YouTube soon enough. I've been doing that for like 2.5 months because I've been more passionate about making a fun little horror project.
Do you have a link to
than,
your YouTube
streaming.
channel?
I haven't built one yet. I want to make sure this is all locked, key, and ready to go.
Ooh, nice. But yeah, again, I'm also kind of working on YouTube stuff. I think, Titus, I'm doing the exact same thing you are. I have a bunch of edited videos. I released one today, in fact, of
Really?
Phasmophobia stream that me, Metalbro, and Valiant played, embarrassingly.
Nice.
So I'm trying to get that. Like, my channel was just home to all my VODs. I'm starting to get some edited videos onto there.
Yeah.
Because I do have experience running a somewhat successful YouTube channel, so I want to get back to that. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. We got to definitely do this again sometime.
For sure. I had a honestly probably one of my favorite streams I've done in a long while. It was a lot of fun having other people to talk to.
Yeah, the collab streams are always the best. I'm shocked. I do find it funny. I was gonna say how easy it was to get our models together. It was only really easy for Burke. Titus, you had me worried there for like a few.
I
times.
don't know what's up with me, man. I
Every
don't know.
YouTube collab has a gremlin curse.
There's always
I swear.
there's always one. It can never work for everybody. There's always somebody it can't work for. But yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a night. Unless you guys have anything else to say.
For anyone watching now or later, remember to be good to yourself and others, and take care.
All right. Y'all have a good evening and a good night.
Night, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.